2020. This is the third annual event. This is a collaboration by Mortgage Coach and Win by Noon. And Todd, I think which one of us came up with this idea for SCRIPT-a-PALOOZA 3 years ago?
Well, I don't want to take all the credit for it, but I suggested it and you sharpened my idea and made it what it is today.
Well, I teed you up for that. So Todd came up with this idea, and here we are 3 times. We have a collaboration of 12 of America's most successful loan officers, but more importantly than the success of their production, it's the value they bring to families. They're all part of the Mortgage Coach community. Most of them are red belts, which means they've done over 1,000 total cost analysis. And they're super successful and they're super valuable. So here's the deal, guys. This is a unique event because America is getting ready to open up from many weeks, many days of quarantine. And I have this belief that some loan officers will be making news and be leading families, providing fiscal stimulus at a high level, and some loan officers will be following. Clarity has never been a bigger competitive advantage than it is today. And that means the words that you use, the sequence in which you use those words has never been more valuable in today's virtual economy. So guys, this is a SCRIPT-a-PALOOZA. And if you don't like the word script, think of structured conversations to help families make clear decisions in a way that's a competitive advantage for you. So before we bring on our first guest, I'm going to hand off to my wingman and co-host, Todd Bookspan. Todd, any opening comments?
Well, I love what you said, right? Don't think of it as a script, think of it as a structured conversation, because I know in prepping for this and talking to many of our guests, they don't believe they have scripts. And most people who have scripts don't think it, they just know it, right? They memorized it, then they customized it for them, and then they internalize it and push it back out there. And so I just want you guys to, first off, be present, right? I know you are so busy right now in the mortgage business, but congratulations, whether you're watching this live or you're watching on video, for carving out time to learn. And take great notes. We're going to be transcribing this and the video will be available, but be writing notes as you go. That's how it's going to really sink in up here in your brain. And just know that today is about you. And we're super grateful for all of our guests, but we're also grateful that you are part of our community and that you're here to help. And ultimately, I know we've got over to on my side on Zoom is Renee. And I know Renee's going to be adding a ton of value too as speakers go. So why don't you jump in, Renee?
I'm just excited to be a part of this. I have a deep passion for scripting. I know that there are people who put a negative stigma on scripting, but script is a sign of professionalism. It's a sign of the perfect use of language, and a beautiful script has no unused words. Every word has a purpose. Every word has psychology behind it. The delivery of the script shows your practice or lack thereof. And so if you're thinking that sounding scripted is bad, look at any movie actor, look at any movie you've seen, it's all scripted, but they deliver it with passion. And they deliver it from the heart. So it's important to learn and pay attention to what these guys are doing. I'll be here just providing some color commentary at the end and what I'm seeing, but I'm just super excited. I think this is valuable to anybody, not just in the mortgage industry.
Right on, Renee. Renee, thank you, man. So between every speaker, Renee Rodriguez is going to come in, provide some color, some takeaways so that your scripts have more influence. Todd's going to help make them actionable, and I'm going to provide some color and do some introductions. So let's bring on stage, our virtual stage, our first guest, Mr. Jay Kroll. Jay closed $180 million in volume last year. Jay, I don't know where you ended up in April, but I know when you and I talked, you were on track for 30 million. How did you close out last month, brother?
We almost hit 32. So we were just shy of 32 million last month. Wow.
Congratulations. How many families served?
58.
58 out of Seattle. So bro, congrats on the impact. So let's start off with just understanding, how do you differentiate yourself with borrowers at the point of sale? Whether it's a script, whether it's a structured conversation, how are you differentiating yourself on the initial call?
I think the way that Todd said it is better, like a structured conversation or kind of main talking points that I like to hit. For me, I like to keep it a little casual. And, before we kind of jump into this, here's my thought. No matter what I say, if I don't care about the person on the other line or across, the video, or that I'm meeting face to face, it doesn't matter what I say. So going into every meeting, every conversation, with the intentionality of, I care about this person and my focus is on serving them. And, you know, Paul said it really well, you know, thousands of years ago, that it doesn't matter if you're the greatest speaker in the world, if you don't speak from the heart and if you don't operate with love, then you're going to sound like a banging gong. So it doesn't matter. We have to start from a place of love. And that's really what I try to do, is come into the call and say, how do I connect with the person? How can I get to know them? How can I find out where they're at? And so it's really about asking questions, getting to know what they're looking to do. And, you know, I can tell you honestly, I try to start my conversation with trying to find out, is this somebody that's going to want to work with me as much as I want them to, you know, differentiate myself? So do they want to work with me? Are they going to fall into that 15%? So some of the trainings that I've been to has basically said 15% of the population only wants to work with somebody who's going to offer the lowest price. And so that's not going to be somebody that is going to be a great fit for us. And then I'm also trying to understand, are they an engineer? Are they an attorney? You know, what are the things that really matter to them up front, so that I can then speak to those things. Where have they started? Who else have they talked to? So I'm really trying to just do some deep dive. And, you know, in that initial conversation, if I can find a connection besides their real estate agent, that's always really nice. You know, maybe they're into basketball, maybe they're into the culinary scene in Seattle, maybe they're find a mutual interest. You know, right now, obviously everyone's talking about how they're dealing with the quarantine and working from home. So some sort of connection is the biggest part of that, because if they can see that I have some care for them as a person, then I think they're going to be more interested in hearing from me. I think beyond that, the things that I really try to articulate is that we have a strong local team that's dedicated to them. I communicate that we close purchases in 2 weeks, and that we are going to protect their earnest money, and we're going to close on time every time. And that we're going to differentiate them with, you know, the cash buyer that's in our market. And about a third of transactions in Seattle or greater King County are cash buyers. So how do you compete with that? And so we want to articulate that component of what the value that we bring to them. And then we'll talk about our planning approach, and I'll articulate, you know, upfront that we have specific tools to help them evaluate their long and short-term borrowing costs, so that we can help them, you know, align themselves with the best mortgage tool. And then we talk about, you know, I talk about price up front, and that's something that we bring to the table. We are, you know, competitively priced. And I talk about that. And then I talk about long-term service and relationships.
So guys, I've done a full it's about a 30-minute interview with Jay. We'll put a link down below if you want to hear his whole experience. So Jay, prior to, you know, the quarantine, you were meeting with a good portion of your clients in person. Has anything changed in your scripting to drive the virtual experience versus the in-office experience?
Yeah, I mean, right, obviously we're not doing the in-office meetings, and we were probably about 85% of new client meetings for first time. So if they've been a repeat buyer, then we wouldn't, you know, necessarily drive that face-to-face consultation unless they wanted that. But if it's a new relationship, we work about 85 to try and get in our office to have that face-to-face meeting. At this point, we're just doing what people prefer. So we'll offer a Zoom, we'll offer a conference call. Always the initial call is just a phone call. So I just want to get them on the phone as quickly as possible. And then from there, we do a full pre-approval. And at that point, that's when we talk about price and we go through a mortgage coach TCA. So typically I'll have a TCA and I'll send them, you know, right before the call, a couple screenshots of what rate watch looks like, so they can understand how rates move on a daily basis. You know, it's only a couple minutes that I want to spend on that. I'm not trying to teach them, you know, Chinese candlesticks or anything like that. But I want to have that conversation of what are we looking at for the market moving, and then going through a live TCA. So whether that's, so that call has to be, they have to be in front of a computer. If they don't want to if they don't want to do Zoom, if they just want to do a conference call, they have to be in front of a computer. And I like the mobile app, but I want them to be on the live screen because they get more data.
Love it. So guys, it's not only what he is saying, but then what he's delivering to drive that effective virtual experience. So how do you position the total cost analysis? Do you call it a total cost analysis, or do you have a different
I call it a total cost analysis.
Got it. So you position that with the family. What about the response to borrowers that are concerned about values? Let's face it, with the quarantine, the number of people that are unemployed, how are you responding to borrowers about values in today's market?
So I mean, from a valuation standpoint, I typically have, some kind of thing of like, where are rates going to go? What are homes going to do? I kind of have a joke of, obviously, if I knew that for certain, then I'd be on a yacht and, chasing around, Warren Buffett or something, but I'm not in that position to know exactly what's going to happen. But what I'll typically say is we look at past recessions, and outside of the 2008, 2009 housing collapse, the previous 6 recessions, housing, appreciated about 2 to 3% every time. So when you look at, historical data and track records, a fixed asset and a hard asset like a home has typically done well in recessionary timeframes. We also will look at, in our market, there's been a lot of demand, and there's also, we're seeing less homes hit the market during the quarantine period. So we still have the simple economics of supply and demand that's going to continue to drive it. And our local economy, yes, the, states have a lot of people.
Josh or Jay, something happened with your mic there. I don't know. Try it one more time.
Can you hear me?
Oh, boom, you're back.
Okay. So I feel my heart goes out to all the individuals that lost their, job and are in really tough situations. But for our marketplace, tech has really thrived in this season, and we have, all the big, companies in our market, from Google to Facebook, and then we have, Amazon. This is their backyard. Microsoft. This is their backyard. And all the, other companies that kind of come from that. So tech has done really well. And so when we look at the job growth that we've had over the last decade, our housing supply, because of, the water and the mountains, we're landlocked. We can't continue to build. So we're not in a market that is going to have that. And if you look at, how we were last into the last housing bubble and that correction, we were actually the first out. So, I think from a standpoint of what our market has done over the last 10 years and where we're projected, all the local economists still project that we're going to have, appreciation gain over the next year. Now, I think different categories are going to be tougher, especially if, more jumbo outlets don't come back, or if the jumbo tightening stays tough. So I think, depending on where that buyer is, it's going to be different.
Got it. So you are a local market expert. And the last question is, do you have any other advice for the audience? Is there anything that you're saying to your team? Anything that you're saying to yourself right now? Any closing thoughts?
Yeah, my thoughts are this, and mindset to me is more important than what you say. Again, here's what I have to tell myself each day is today's the one day I got, and here's my one moment. And so really trying to be right here, right now. My dad was a basketball coach, and he would ask players, where are you? And the response was always right here, right now. So really trying to wake up, and whether it's breakfast time with my kids, or we went on a morning walk this morning with our dog, or right here on this call, I'm all in. So my focus is being present. And when I'm present and locked in, then I can be my best. And, we're in a season that is challenging. We have, people across the country are sick. People are losing their jobs. We have a lot to be thankful for. So just really trying to encourage everybody to be their best in each individual moment. If that's a client consultation, be all in. If it's an initial client call, be all in. If it's time with your family, put your phone down and be all in.
Love it, brother. You completely crushed it. Thank you so much. Todd, any debrief thoughts for you or Renee?
I just think right here, right now, someone who's known Jay for a long time and has the ultimate respect, I think that the big takeaway for me is obviously the whole idea. It doesn't matter what you say if you don't care, and that he's there to serve. And I know that that's true about you, Jay. I mean, you're just such a great human, as well as a great dad, husband, and originator, you know, probably in that order, and leader probably up front too. And so I'm grateful for you spending time. And I think that the rest of you can learn that, you know, whether you feel like you're the best scripted loan officer in the world or not, if you just connect like Jay's talking about, I know that you will be infinitely more successful the rest of the day and the rest of your career.
Well, I one little point to that, Todd, you know, one of the things that I've done a lot of reading, my wife's a psychologist, and they actually say that if you're too perfect in your scripting, a lot of times people will feel that that's canned and not authentic. And so I'm not saying if you're perfect in your delivery on a call, that doesn't mean you're not going to do well. But I say that more than anything to just get out there and do it. Say the things that you need to be said and don't try to be perfect, because people want somebody that's authentic. The people that are on the other line aren't perfect. And if you sound perfect, that may be intimidating for them. Just like some loan officers stopped wearing suit and tie because when their clients came in their sweatshirt, they're like, you know, it created some dissonance with the client, because they're like, wait, this guy's way bigger than me, and I'm supposed to undress financially with them. It's okay to not be perfect, and I'm not going to be perfect, and I don't have any expectations. And I think that's the part for me that, you know, I'm always going to try to get better. But when you get on the phone, just speak from the heart and be authentic. And if you care, then people are going to get that.
That is so awesome. That is so awesome. What do you have to say, Renee?
You know, I just, first of all, that was great, Jay. And I want people to, what I'm going to try to point out are some of the nuances for those listening that if they want to go back and do this. Notice that he didn't jump into script. He jumped into philosophy and beliefs first. And he outlined what he believes, what's important to him, where he's coming from internally. And the three things he said were care, service, and connection. And the script is his roadmap to achieve those three things. Think about that sequence. It's so critical that he knows why he's there. He knows why he exists. And if the script helps him achieve those three things that are important to him, it's a good script. And so I think you'll find is the best scripted. And again, I'm going to dismiss this myth that scripting is bad. Scripting is good. It is a good professional thing to do. Your lack of practice is what makes it bad. So I'm going to keep pounding that into us here. And so but again, coming from a philosophy, a personal belief, and if any script, you can give Jay any script, if it didn't fit those three things, I'm assuming, Jay, you wouldn't have anything to do with that script.
That's right. And I think what you said is really key when you think about the standpoint of we're all really busy and our jobs are super hectic, and we're dealing from, you know, an intense conversation with a client. Maybe some clients, you know, they lost their job and they're going to lose, they're worried about losing their earnest money. And then you have the next call is a new prospective buyer, or you get a personal call, you know, like last month, you know, my brother-in-law, he got coronavirus, and his wife was pregnant with twins, and she had the coronavirus, and they had to have emergency C-section. So I get that news, and then I got, you know, to jump on a client conversation. You know, they don't care what's happened. They care about me helping them with their financing. And so if I don't have a roadmap in my brain, like a script to get me back to some rhythm of, oh, what do I say next? Like, what do I need to, what things do I need to cover? Like, I cover at least 5 things every time I have an initial conversation. I talk about our process, and I talk about the 4 reasons why they should work with us. If I don't have that, I'm going to fail in those calls when you're in those transitions, right? We get bad news. We have hard things. And I know that the people that aren't dialed on those things, what do they do? What do they default to? I'm just not ready for the call right now. I need to go on a walk. You know, for me, it's like, I can take a deep breath, and I know my routine. I know my system. And if you know your system, then you're going to perform. And, you know, I'm a former basketball guy. So, you know, when you walk to the free throw line and things are intense, you have your script of, I get the ball, I look at the rim, I take 2 dribbles, I breathe out, and then I get a swish. And if you have that result, and so it's the same philosophy to client calls or client consultations, like have a system so that no matter what's happened, if you're rattled or in your peak performance, you can deliver a good shot.
High performance at the end of the day comes down to being able to have your body and your mind perform to what you've practiced to prior to that. Any professional athlete, any elite military professional, it's about performance, and that's managing your emotional state and the stress level. And the three words that do that are structure, order, predictability, and scripting gives you just that. I think that's great, Jay. Thank you.
Well, you talked about practice, right? And practice is all about repetition. And, you know, a great teacher taught me repetition is the mother of all learning. We have to be disciplined in continually getting better.
Love it.
I just love that. I just love that. Well, Jay, thanks again for carving out time. I know you are so scheduled out and so disciplined, and that was a huge gift to our community. It was really great seeing you again, my friend.
Great to see you, Todd.
Super excited to bring on Denise Donahue, and she's just been crushing it. I see there, Denise, 13 million in April. You mind just giving a little background to how many families you served and where you are located, et cetera?
Yes, so I am in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, specifically Plano, Frisco, and that was 43 families.
That is so awesome. That is so awesome. And so you are the mortgage nerd, and we love all the value that you've added to our community. Let's just jump off with, how are you connecting to first-time home buyers in this market?
I feel like our first-time home buyers right now, that business and their interest in the home buying, even with COVID, has not slowed down one bit. I feel like it's almost taken off. I think because rates are low and they don't have a house to sell. And so first-time home buyers, I love working with them. They have so many questions, and they're good questions. If you think about, if you ever study generations and the psychology behind generations, typically first-time home buyers in the age that they're in, they saw their parents go through the housing crash. And so I love studying the generation psychology because they're a little bit more skeptical. They don't necessarily trust as much. They're doing things a lot differently than what their parents did. They're waiting longer to get married, and they're they're a little bit more commitment phobia-ish. And so it's important that you address that head on. And so I believe in the power of words. And I think normally when I'm talking to first-time home buyers, and I've even been teaching my real estate agents, I don't like to use words like get pre-qualified. Almost every lender that you talk to, a real estate agent, when they introduce a lender to a first-time home buyer, they say, oh, you've got to talk to Denise, you need to get pre-qualified. Well, to me, pre-qualified sets a client up for either success or failure. They hear that there's a possibility that they might not get pre-qualified. And so I like to use words with, let's have a conversation. Let's talk about your home buying budget. Whether you're thinking of buying today or 2 years from now, we need to put together a plan, a strategy, a roadmap. Those are all key words that I use that are very different than pre-qualified or pre-approved. Now, in theory, what we're doing during the pre-qualification is just that. But it's so important to me that I've actually built out a specific landing page on my website that is not a credit pull. Because if oftentimes they just want to know what budget around this monthly payment could they buy before they go 2 feet in and pull their credit. And so if they feel good about their credit, but they're not quite sure what purchase price they would put them in, I've created a solution that fosters let's have a conversation, let's put together a home buying budget and see what we need to do today to accomplish your goal, whether that goal is tomorrow or a year from now. And what I'm discovering is that we can get them to that goal a lot sooner than what they even thought. But those are the words I like to use. I cringe when pre-qualified or pre-approved is used, especially with first-time home buyers.
What do you say then when they're all over you saying, I just want my pre-qual, I just want my pre-qual? How do you get them back on your track versus theirs?
If they're educated enough that they know what the pre-qual means, or if they're actually wanting to go out and look at homes, then I explain to them that the pre-qualification means that I'm going to review credit. We're going to look at the good, bad, and the ugly on the credit. We can put together a credit plan if needed. Then we're going to look at your income, how we calculate that. Every single one of my first-time home buyers, I tell them knowing your debt to income ratio is like going to the doctor's office and knowing what your blood pressure numbers are. It's very, very important to know what that is and what that means. And the closer you are to that 45 or 50, what that means for them and the family. And so I try to use analogies a lot. I think my team makes fun of me because every day it's like a different analogy, and it's really dependent on who I'm talking to. If I'm talking to a basketball player, I'll use a basketball analogy. If I'm talking to a doctor, I use the blood pressure. I try to make it relatable, so that it makes sense that if you break your leg and you're asking me what you should do for your leg, well, I need to take an x-ray, which means I need to get a pre-qualification. I need to get a total loan application so that I can see where the break is and then make my prescription. So anyways, that just gives you an idea. But if it's first-time home buyers on social media marketing and things like that, you won't find me using words like pre-qualified.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Let's switch gears to a second. Talk about your refinance scripting. What does that look like right now?
Woo! Is anybody else drowning in refis right now? Refis are great. I do stick to the same analogy with refis and Dan will like this one, but to me, refis are like a baseball game. There's 9 innings, and oftentimes people think that a refinance loan, especially if they're a prior client of my own, should be an easier transaction than a purchase. But I'd argue that it's harder and that there are more curveballs. The biggest curveball is going to be the appraisal. But I try to set the expectation with my refi clients that once we've done a total cost analysis and we see that it makes financial sense, then I have to set expectations that this is 9 innings and we could get a curveball in the first inning, or we could get the curveball at the bottom of the 9th. The point is we don't know where it's going to go, but we practice for this, we train for it. I don't set the stage like it's going to be easy breezy, because it is difficult, especially with all this COVID stuff and people having changes in income, changes in their job, thinking that you won't find out, and so they're trying to hide it. These are all potential curveballs. So I try to address it head on, that the more that they can be upfront with me on the curveballs they're bringing to the table, then I can try to prevent those as much as possible. But it's not a 1 inning game. It's 9 innings, and we're in it till the end, and we're in it until we get the clear to close. So I hit hard on it's not easier than a purchase transaction.
Love that. And you mentioned total cost analysis. Do you mind real quick just saying how you set up the TCA as the tool that you use to determine whether or not that refinance makes sense?
Yes. So I never call it a total cost analysis. I call it a certified mortgage plan. And what I do is I will run their current loan scenario, and I always look at their credit. Half the time when we ask clients what their current rate is, they almost don't know. They ballpark it. Sometimes how long they've been in the home, they ballpark it. And so the first thing I like to do is get a copy of their most recent mortgage statement. And then I set up my total cost analysis with their current loan scenario, and I put together options like maybe we do a 30-year so that we increase their cash flow, because we're going to take that cash flow and we're going to reinvest it right now in their 401k or into a brokerage account, and potentially help their net worth in that regard. Or maybe they're not as self-disciplined with their finances, and I'm starting to uncover that in the conversation. Then I might look at, if you've got 28 years left, let's look at the 25-year and see what we can do to shed off those 3 years that will do to your net worth. And let's say they're going to be in the house for 7 years. I always customize that short-term chart, and I spend probably the most on that chart. And I called that specific part the rate of return calculator. And I specifically use words like that instead of savings, because rate of return has a different professional meaning than just savings. And that's really what we're analyzing is, if you're telling me you're going to be in the home for 7 years, what is the rate of return on that decision? And is it worth it? Because if the answer is no, great. Then we know you're in a good spot. But definitely, every single one of my clients gets a certified mortgage plan.
Love it. Your scripting is awesome. Renee, any takeaways or anything you want to shine a light on from what Denise just shared with us?
Yeah, I want to make sure that I'm ready for Denise here with these. This is how much I'm a big fan of Denise. I want to be just like her. No, I think if I were to talk about her and what she's doing, Denise, what I love about what Denise does is she's using a lot of psychology in what she's doing. She's making sure that she's connecting with people, and analogies, storytelling. That is framing, in that sense, is using frames of reference of your audience, not your own. And that's the sign of true genius, is when you can look past your own frames of reference and not use analogies and say, who's my audience and how do I relate to them? If you're talking, I think Jim Rohn talked about when Jesus was talking to recruiting, he didn't say, let's go recruit. He was talking to fishermen. It's like fishing. And so changing your message to your audience is so critical and is a sign of care, is a sign of empathy in all sorts of things. I love how you change words to fit your own brand, certified mortgage plan, rate of return. And Tom Hopkins used to have a list of words you never use in sales. And one of them was cost. And one of them was price. And it was always about investment. And so she doesn't say pre-qual because she understands that maybe that carries a negative connotation in her marketplace. So she changed it to conversation, a roadmap, a strategy. I think that's all fantastic. I love the 9 innings. And when you're doing that, you're giving people, the 9 innings piece gives people a sense of a beginning, middle, and an end. And it also gives you a frame of reference that there are changes within that journey. And when that happens, what she's employing is a very old psychological process called forewarned is forearmed. When you forewarn somebody, you prepare them for what happens, and there's no surprise. And when there's no surprise, you get no reptilian response, system 1 response, or that lizard brain that comes up and gets scared and panics. So that process of her being able to do that is creating a very strong customer experience.
Denise, you killed it. Thank you for all the value you bring to the mortgage coach community. Another mortgage coach grandmaster who's done over 1,000 TCAs. So let's bring on the virtual stage, Josh Mettle. His team closed 86 million last year. Josh, your team was on track to close 60 million last month, 9 million personally. How did you do? Did you guys hit that?
We rolled about 5 million. So we served 155 clients last month, ended up right around 56 million. So May's going to be a banger. A lot of people to help this month.
I love it, brother. Well, Josh, you've heard everybody share some scripts right now. We want to hear how are you differentiating at the point of sale? And if there are any nuances on how you're doing it in today's virtual economy, we'd love to hear them.
Well, I think both Denise and Jay really opened us up in the right place where, more than what we say, it's where we come from. Where's our mindset? I was coaching a younger loan officer on my team, and my whole coaching message was, look, if you feel like you have the ability to give great advice, if you feel that you're an important person and can play a role in helping them develop more wealth in real estate and helping them restructure their debt, like Jay said, they'll feel that. They'll feel that heart connection. And so I'll go into some scripting, but more important to me than scripting is where you're coming from. And if you believe you have the tools to help, if you believe you have the ability to put somebody in a better position than they could be without you, then to me, that trumps just about everything. The words that I'm using in regards to scripting, Dave, and you've heard, we did about a 30-minute jam session on this, but I'm talking about the right mortgage strategy trumps interest rate 100% of the time, not some of the time, all of the time. So when we talk about refinancing your mortgage, what we need to be doing is we need to be looking at a global debt perspective for you. So I want to see the student loans, the cars, the credit cards. I want to see all of those things. We should be talking about how much liquidity and reserves you have, because if liquidity and reserves were ever a hot button, something that's important, now is the time to be talking about that with clients. So when I talk about doing a global review with them, I'm bridging their debts, I'm bridging their liquidity, I'm really talking about how secure are you right now. Let me just give you Dave, this is one of the questions that you had for me. You said to me, are you having trouble doing cash out refinances? Because we're getting overlays and pricing hits and things like that to cash out refinances. Plus we're not getting appraisal waivers. So one of the clients that I helped this week was, he's a resident physician. He's on $60,000 a year salary, working 14 hours a day, 6 days a week with 4 kids. And we did a 97% loan for him last year. And when we looked at it, we said, yeah, we can save you about $100, $150 a month. We're not sure it's worth it from first glance. But when I got in there deeper and I said, look, let's dive deeper. Let me see all of your debts. Where are your liabilities? We figured out he had a car loan. It's $12,000 car loan, $517 a month on a guy who's got a $60,000 W-2 with four kids. So we said, look, let's do this. Let's get you the max cash out. You know, Freddie Mac just changed so you can do 1% of the loan amount as cash out, and you don't have to call that cash out. So it's no longer capped at $2,000. It's got a $400,000 mortgage. So we took $4,000 cash out at closing. It was actually $3,700. We skipped 2 payments. That freed up another 4 Gs for the guy. And we got him $4,000 back from his escrow account refund. We did a rate and term refi. We pulled out between all of those things. I sent you the TCA on this, Dave. If you want to share it later, feel free to. We knocked out about $150 a month savings on his mortgage and $517 on a car payment. We freed up $700 a month for the guy. So when I know that Mortgage Coach and the TCA can help me run those numbers and help me figure those things out, when I enter a conversation knowing that that's what I'm trying to get at, I'm trying to get way past rate, I'm trying to get to advice and strategy, and all my scripting is built around advice and strategy, then I know that I can really help somebody. It makes it really easy to say the right things because I'm coming at it from a place where I know there's nobody else in the world who can give you better advice on how to restructure and improve your cash flow and make sure you have some liquidity. And now's the time that our clients need it more than ever before.
So Josh, you know, I've interviewed you multiple times on this, guys, and I'm going to put a link down below to Josh's TCA at the transition. Also, there's a full interview that we did on how he is effectively doing refis in today's market. So link down below. Is anything different? Well, I know it's not any different because you've been doing virtual mortgage experiences forever. What about this? I'd love a script from you for a loan officer that doesn't have this superstar pipeline like you do, and they need to call and get leads. How would you call friends and family members right now if the goal was to mine for refinances? Any scripting on that?
Probably the easiest time to ever do that in the history of mortgages today, right? Here's the script. Hey, Dave, how you doing? Right? Like any
Right.
good friend, any associate can land that script and just be like, man, how are you? How's the family? How are you holding up? What are you struggling with? How's your wife doing with the homeschooling? I mean, you just roll organically into caring for somebody and checking in with them. And then you just say, hey, bro, have you seen what interest rates are doing? They're insane. They're like the lowest of all time. We're doing amazing stuff, doing global debt analysis for clients and helping them make sure they have a little more cash flow and a little more liquidity. Is that something you're interested in? Like, you don't have to be polished. You just have to be real and authentic and care for somebody. And, you know, I think between some really simple Facebook advertising, some really simple just reaching out to people, you should be busier now than you ever have been in your career, in my opinion.
So notice that, guys, 2 things. Book in number 1, how are you doing, with a grateful heart and a curious heart to really know how they're doing. And then 2, offering something more than a rate quote. Would you like a global debt analysis? Would you like a certified mortgage plan? Would you like a total cost analysis? You know, something of tangible value. And again, my Mortgage Coach commercial right now, guys, is if Mortgage Coach was valuable before we lived in a virtual economy, it's become 10 times more important because it not only helps you connect, it helps you save time when it comes to refis. Josh, any last words before we bring in Mr. Rene Rodriguez to unpack your brilliant scripts?
I agree with you that Mortgage Coach is more valuable now than it ever has been before. And I also believe your past client database is more valuable than it ever has before because everybody has time to take a phone call and just to check in on them and to talk about this kind of stuff. One thing in just regards to positioning with Mortgage Coach is I learn so much when I build a total cost analysis for somebody that I'm building up that total cost analysis all the time when I'm talking to a client. So it doesn't matter if it's a purchase client, and to Jay's point, you know, he has these 4 reasons why people should be working with him. I have built into my CRM the same questions everybody on my team asks every single time. And at the end of that, and whether it's a purchase or a refinance, when we get to the end, we say, hey, based on what I heard you say, I am so excited to build you a total cost analysis because I think we have an opportunity to save you $700 a month in additional cash flow and really help you build up your reserves. Or I can't wait to build you a total cost analysis because based on what I heard you say, we're going to have an incredible program for you. We're going to be able to allow you to close on your employment contract. We're going to allow you to avoid those student loans. I deal a lot with doctors. We're going to allow you to buy a home with no mortgage insurance. And I'm going to show you several mortgage and strategies inside the total cost analysis that's going to make your home buying decision and really which mortgage to go with ridiculously simple. I'll send you a link to the client questionnaire. I'll build out the total cost analysis, and then we'll jump back on the line and answer any questions. It'll be simple, I promise. So I'm always just edifying. Yeah, I'm just always edifying the total cost analysis. And that's kind of the bait, because I look at it that way. It's such a valuable software tool for me in my mortgage planning and advice to clients that I'm always edifying it and building it up. And in the end, people are saying things like, so how do I get the total cost analysis again? Like they're taking the next step rather than me pursuing them.
Love it, guys. So I just showed the Mortgage Coach total cost analysis. Me showing the screen is my one-time Mortgage Coach commercial during SCRIPT-a-PALOOZA, but notice it's got your branding, your photo, always putting a video on it for virtual emotional connection, and always giving people options so that you net it out, guys. And then, of course, if you have social survey, your most recent top review will show up in the bottom. So, Renee, any takeaways or anything you want to shine a light on from Josh's scripting and the words that he's using?
I mean, watching Josh work is like watching Michael Jordan play basketball. It's such a fun thing to watch. I'd say the same about Ryan Grant when he comes on here too. So make sure you tune in there. And again, a pro started it. Hey, before I give you the script, Lara, where am I coming from? Anything that Josh does, it's full heart. It's just, it comes through his tone of voice. It comes through his knowledge, and it comes through his commitment to understanding that. What I wrote down here is you immediately know you're in the hands of a pro, a true master of finance. And he knows his numbers. I mean, do you notice how he just told you all those numbers because they're just ingrained in his soul of what it is, because he was there with the client. He was there. Each dollar he saved was something he was doing for the client. So now here's what I want to tell you if you're listening to him. Watching him work can be intimidating as hell, because how am I going to be that way? If you're new at this, how am I going to do that? If you watch Dan Keller swing a bat, how am I going to swing a bat like that? He was a pro athlete. That's why he swings it like that. Years of work. So what I'm going to tell you is use what you're seeing today as the benchmark. That's where I want to go. You're on the right call. They're teaching you the way. You make a little incremental improvement every week on what these people are saying. You start adopting their language. Pay attention. Watch this video again. Listen to the tone of voice, when he pauses, when he starts, when he stops, when he leans in, when he leans back. All of that stuff makes a difference. So I just want you to be really focus on all these things and don't get intimidated by how good they are. That comes from years of practice. So I just love watching this.
Yeah, guys, link down below to a full interview with Josh on the most effective way to deliver a refi experience and in a way that's most valuable to a family. Todd, I will let you tee up our next guest.
Well, you mentioned tee up, right? Renee, you hinted at it. We got none other than Dan Keller on deck. Closed over 20 million last month. Dan, why don't you, for those who don't know who you are and where you're tuning in from, give a little background.
Well, it looks like I'm one of the 4 big dogs up here in Seattle on SCRIPT-a-PALOOZA. It's a really, really heavy, great loan officer heavy area up here in Seattle. So Jay, Cody, all these big dogs up here, I'm excited to be a part of this.
That is awesome. That is awesome. So we've been talking about borrower scripts. Real quick, how are you teeing up your realtors right now and in getting new realtor relationships while people are still working at home?
Well, Denise mentioned this. We're in a crazy time with refinances right now. And so a big part of my business is realtors. And so I've had to work a lot of overtime. I'm spending a lot of time after hours working on refinance TCAs. I don't, just like I think Denise and Josh were saying, I don't call them TCAs with refinances. I call them savings options reports. Okay. And I'm working literally until, midnight almost every night because I can't neglect my realtors during the day. So during the day, just like Josh just said, it's so simple. A phone call to a real estate agent right now is gold. And I'm just making the call. How are you doing? How's quarantine life? How's business? And I can tell you right now, in May, we're breaking a record in May for purchase contracts. I think we're going to close 63 units in May, and we're pushing 30 of them refinance contracts. And so real estate's not slowing down up here. I think Jay talked about that. Real estate, we're blessed up here. We're tech heavy. And so just making the phone calls. How are you doing? What can I do to support you? And then I think Josh just talked about this. This is the time to be getting information out to people on social media. I doubled down on my boosted Facebook activity to homeowners, to real estate agents, and to first-time home buyers. And so just staying active on the phone and then asking them what I can do to support them.
So I'm guessing you're hearing a lot of them are saying they're not hearing from their loan officers who are focused on refis. Is that a common occurrence?
Very common. And, the thing too is I'm getting calls from listing agents because we do Tuesday updates. So I call every single listing agent, and a couple of times, these are good listing agents. They've said, you're the first lender I've talked to in like a couple of weeks. And so they really appreciate the updates. And then what I do is I ask them, I never add a realtor or a lead. I don't like calling them leads, but a prospect home buyer or a refinance prospect, I never add them to a list without their permission. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let them know that I create a weekly making sense of the markets video. It's 3 to 5 minutes. I send it out to all my clients. I put it on social media, and it's designed for real estate agents and home buyers and homeowners. And I asked them, would they be interested in getting this? And every single one of them has said yes. And that right there is one of the hottest lures in my tackle box right now. And most of the time, every week, a total cost analysis, a TCA, is involved in that. And so they're seeing how I present loan options. They're seeing how I position myself as an advisor in the mortgage and real estate industry.
So that kind of leads into my next question of how are you setting up the total cost analysis with your partners? Is the video the way, or is there additional ways that you're doing that?
Yeah, man, I show, I don't sell. I show, I don't tell. And so what I'm doing, they're seeing it. Listing agents are seeing it in reports. My agents, when we sit down and we talk for the first time, I'm showing them the home buyer experience. And a big part of that from before I love what Denise said. I don't like talking about pre-qualification. I call it a mortgage planning meeting, and I condition my realtors to say that. And so I want you to sit down with Dan, and I want you guys to go over a mortgage planning meeting. And through that, you're going to get educated, and he's going to teach you about the home buying process and the mortgage approval process. Big part of that is before they even apply, I show them a budgeting report, and I use a total cost analysis to do that. And then as they apply and navigate through the home buying journey, it's always updated. As they're approved, here's your approval options. As they make an offer, here are your options in regards to writing an offer if you need to escalate. As we prepare to lock your rate, here are your options for rate lock strategies. And so I share that with our realtors. They absolutely love it. And most of my best realtors, when they recommend us, they bring up, like I know Dave Savage has talked to Christian Awesome about this. They bring up the software that I use to present loan options. And that's a goosebump moment when my realtors start saying that.
So by showing them instead of telling them, that's really your script to get them to understand your planning meeting versus pre-qualification.
Yes.
Awesome. So talk about then your script right now for refinances. Obviously it's hot. You're working extra hours. How are you setting that up with past clients, friends, et cetera?
I've never been a really good, hey, just call someone and ask them for business. It just has felt awkward. And maybe that's just my sales style. And so what I did in February, my coach had me do this, and I was like, oh my God. He made me call 120 past clients, my most recent 120 past clients that I had closed starting at the end of last year. And it was uncomfortable through the first 5 or 10. And then the conversation started happening, just like Josh was saying. How are you doing? And this was kind of before COVID. Hey, how are you doing? Rates have dropped, and I'm just checking in. 1, to see how they're doing. 2, to see if there's an option to help save them money. And I use this, and I think I learned this from someone in the mortgage coach community, and I've been using this over the past couple of years. I just wanted to check in to see if the mortgage that I put you in is still in line with your short-term and long-term financial goals. And that's all I'm saying.
That's huge. How long did it take you to make those 120 calls? Because we got 1,000 north of 1,000 people watching, and I'm thinking they're all thinking, how can I schedule in that time with how busy I am?
Yeah, well, there's some stud loan officers that can bang those out in a day. I don't use the software. What is it, Phone Burner, and some of the software that dials. So I spread it out over 3 days. And that's the other thing. I don't like to just jump on the phone and then be forced to have to wrap up the call to get to the next. And so some clients, hey, we had great conversations that lasted a few minutes. Others, it was voicemails. And so the voicemails were incredible. That's where a lot of the people called me back because of the message that I left. And, but it got worse. It actually got worse. The next month, he made me call another 150. So but you know, the numbers that we've closed in April and the numbers that we're closing in May are a result of that activity. And then a little bit of luck. I mean, interest rates have dropped to just ridiculous levels. And so it's just an opportunity to save people money. And it's almost like a game now. Hey, how much can we educate these guys? How much can we change the financial game for them? And then how much money can we save them? And it's just, the calls are just incredible right now. And we're having a ton of fun with them.
That's awesome. You mind giving what would you leave as a voicemail if you called Dave and he wasn't available? What would that voicemail look like? Because obviously it was successful in getting people to call you back.
Hey, Dave, this is Dan Keller, your mortgage guy over at Cross Country Mortgage. Hey, I'm just calling to check in. I wanted to see how you're doing. And I know you've probably seen this in the news or on social media, but mortgage interest rates have dropped to insanely low, historic low levels. And the purpose of my call is just to check in. I put you into a mortgage about 1.5 years ago. And I want to make sure that that mortgage that we put you in 1.5 years ago is still in line with your short-term and long-term financial goals. Give me a call back when you have a moment. I just want to check in and see how you're doing. And I look forward to talking with you.
That is so good. That is so good. We got another couple of minutes. Any other script that you're using a lot lately that you find yourself over and over using and think, gosh, this is something I should share with the community?
Yeah, I mean, I think I wanted to, if I could have started off my interview with this, a big part of just putting everything and putting my business in context for the listeners. I got in the mortgage industry in 2008. And so I was competing against a lot of very successful loan officers up here in Seattle that knew what they were doing. I didn't. And so I started creating content. I started a blog, and then video came along, and I was an early adopter. Carl White was talking a week ago. He was a big part of getting me to do video back in 2009. And then I continued to blog. And so this right now with social media and all the news that we have to talk about as mortgage professionals is kind of like, you know, Renee gave the baseball analogy. It's kind of like me going up the bases loaded and a pitcher that's just throwing cheddar, you know, and he's going to tee one up right down the middle. It's just, it's an environment that I absolutely love right now. And it's an environment that all of us should adopt. I mean, we have information in our head to get out to the public that we should be getting on social media. And so what I've been finding myself doing is I'm blogging more than ever. If you go to my YouTube channel, I mean, I've created 7 incredible YouTube videos over the last month, and same thing on social media. And so I'm just trying to get information out to the public. And so when I talk about scripts, when I make these calls, I'm sending this out to my past clients on a weekly basis. So they're getting these emails. And so when I'm making the phone calls, it's like, hey, I saw your video. Or when I'm calling a friend that follows me on social media, or they're calling me, hey, Dan, I saw your video and I want to talk to you more about this. So it's not me going, hey, I can save you some money, or hey, do you know anyone who wants to buy or sell or refinance their home right now? It's more, I'm leading through education. I'm leading through content. And I'll tell you what, you can see behind me, I love baseball. I coach baseball at the high school. And I love to fish. I'm in Seattle. A mile away, we have the Puget Sound, which is a part of the Pacific Ocean. Some of the best salmon fishing available to us in the U.S. A big part of fishing is making sure you're using the right tackle. And a big part of my tackle box in the mortgage industry is using a mortgage coach, total cost analysis, and using content that I create. And I'll tell you what, we're putting more fish in the boat now than we ever have. And it's a byproduct of mortgage coach, total cost analysis. Big reason for that. And then content creation. You combine those two and it's a winning combo.
You are crushing it, brother. Renee Rodriguez, if you could unmute yourself and share your takeaways and thoughts from what Dan's doing.
You know, I just love watching Dan work, because the privilege of being able to work with a lot of these guys on this panel in smaller groups is watching what you're seeing, this professional behind the scenes, put themselves through the rigor of work, put themselves through the rigor of being uncomfortable, sweating, learning, failing over and over and over and over again. And they do that so they show up the way they do here today. And so if you're watching this, just remember what you're seeing here is the product of just discipline and hard work, repetition. And the good news is something that everybody listening here can do. If you just put in the time, follow the scripts, they're giving you the roadmap. If you just go back to this video, get the transcript and just put it on your screen and just practice. Make it a thing. Tell your friends, tell your family, call us. I tell people when I did this, hey, can I just practice something on you? I need to practice. Will you help me out? They go, sure. And the script is so good, there's no sales resistance because they're helping you out. They're listening to the value proposition. And there's a good percentage of people that are going to say, wait, can you tell me more about that? When you do that enough times, it's just going to get better. It's going to get better. And it's honest. I'm practicing. And it just so happens that I'm delivering value at the same time. So look at what he said. One, savings options reports. He decided to brand it himself. Call your agents because they're being ignored. Simple, but such important advice. What he's saying, he shows, doesn't tell. What he's saying is that he's a master presenter. I was having a conversation yesterday with Michael Mayer, and he said the first thing to go away during refi booms is initial consultations and presentations. People just jump to paperwork and get it done, and then they think that they're adding value. You're not. You're just in the right place at the right time. And when the rates go up, you're going to have to go back to some level of presentation of value. Here is the value of working with me. Here's the exchange. I'm going to give you this. You're going to give me that. And if you can't articulate that in a powerful way, it just doesn't work. And so I love that. Train. And he also, I want you to hear this last piece. He enrolls and he trains his entire value stream. Anybody that's part of the transaction is part of Dan's team. He scripts them, he trains them. He also does it for them. So if you're part of it, it seems like a seamless interaction. Everybody's part of Dan's team. I loved it. Great job, bud.
That was an awesome debrief, brother. And guys, make sure you follow Rene Rodriguez on social media. Myself, Dan, Denise, Josh, we've all been trained by him through his Amplify event. So check that out, crenespeak.com. And we'll put a link down below to see when the next Amplify event's going to go. So thank you, brother. And Dan, you crushed it as always. And I love what you do with Mortgage Coach. Another Mortgage Coach Red Belt, Grandmaster, who's done over 1,000 TCAs. So next up, we have Amber Kovarik. She is coming to us out of Arizona. So we're getting out of the Pacific Northwest. Did 72 million last year, 42 loans for 13 million in April. Amber, did you guys end up hitting those numbers?
We actually closed 43, so we beat it by 1.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Where are you exactly for everybody on the call?
I'm out in Chandler, Arizona.
Awesome. So I know you've got some interesting scripts. You know, we're gonna shift it just a little bit, guys, and we're gonna hear some new scripts. But remember, guys, if you have questions or you have scripts you want us to cover, put them down below. We are going to go long. So we're going to do the SCRIPT-a-PALOOZA up until, 10 o'clock. And then we're going to do 15 to 30 minutes of debrief. Any of these scripts that you have, we'll ask the people that are left. So Amber, I know you've got a 3-promise script because I've interviewed you before. And at the end of your consultants, you give them these promises. If you could tell us that script, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, for sure. I have to give credit where credit is due because I swiped and adapted this script from Josh Sigmund as part of the core. And really, I just love like SCRIPT-a-PALOOZA and all this content you put out because I grew up in the mortgage business through Mortgage Coach. Like I would listen to all of the Tuesday interviews and I would just pull scripts and just say what everyone else was saying. And it's how I got trained in the mortgage business. And so I think it's so incredible. I've already taken so many notes of just little tweaks that I can make and how I'm saying things that make such a different impact. So I love Josh's script that he uses, that I use at the end of every one of my purchase consultations now. And it's really just sort of setting the stage for referrals because we are also very realtor focused. And I think the thing is we always want to be giving back to our realtors in whatever way we can and generating referrals for them. And so at the end of the consultation, I can, say like, oh, I'm so excited for you. We've got your game plan in place. We know what we're going to be doing. I just want to kind of set the stage for what this is going to look like as we work together. We have 3 promises that we stand by. One of them being that we promise to proactively communicate with you. What that looks like is that we will call you every Tuesday with a loan update to let you know where we're at and what the next steps are. The human brain, with lack of information, typically assumes worst case scenario. So if we're not updating you, you're going to start to think that things are going wrong, you're going to lose your dream home, and we never want you going there. So you'll get a call every Tuesday, probably more than that, but at least once a week. My second promise is that we stand by our numbers. So I've told you your cash to close is this amount. That will be the number at closing or less. It will never, ever be higher. If something pops up or we miss something, we're going to cover that difference because we want you to have confidence as you go through this that everything will be what you expected it to be or better. And thirdly, we promise to close your loan on time. That might not sound like a huge deal, but unfortunately in our industry, there are some lenders who look at the closing date as a suggestion, which can be a huge roadblock for you. You could lose the house if there's an offer in a backed up position and they're just waiting for you to do something wrong. You could incur fines or penalties from the seller by not closing on time, or you could have a minivan packed up and nowhere to go and be really, really mad at us. And we don't like any of those options, so we close on time every single time. And the only thing that I ask for in return is that if you found value in this consultation, please let your realtor know that. And secondly, as you're out there telling everybody how excited you are to go out and buy a house, there's going to be people that are also excited that want to see what they can do to buy or sell or refinance. And we just ask that you think of us. If you could send us one person that me and your realtor could help between now and the time we close on your home, that would mean the world to us, and it would show that we're taking great care of you. Does that sound like a plan? You know, and they always say yes, and that's how we kind of wrap it up. And then when we call them on Tuesdays, we already have their buy-in that yes, we're going to keep our feelers out there for anybody that mentions they want to buy or sell, and we can ask them about it in different ways to try to just drum up ideas, because during the transaction is the best time for us to find other people we can help that we can refer to our realtor and give back to them.
Boom. So guys, how did you love that script and that intention she has to get more referrals during the process of the loan? You're going to hear our closer, Jeremy Focier, has a way that he's asking for referrals for loans that are currently in process. But I love the way you did that at application, like new best practice for mortgage coach community. Those 4 promises should become part of everybody's language. So I know you're also, just the way you're getting people to commit and lock in interest rates, you've got some conversations that you're having there. How are you getting people to go from, I'm shopping, should I lock in? Should I do it now? Should I do it later? How are you having that conversation right now?
Yeah, you know, I've always been very purchase focused. I love purchases because there's realtors involved. There's a timeline, like people are excited. And then you get into the refinance world and it's a whole different game because it can be very interest rate focused, which is not our focus. And I don't want to spend time on clients that aren't committed to us and who maybe don't really understand what it means when they say, yes, I'm committed. Let's lock in this rate and move forward. So we started being really clear when we're locking in a refinance with a client, is just saying like, okay, we've talked, we're going to lock in your interest rate at 3.25. This is your monthly payment. Here are the terms. You know, are you good with that? And they'll be like, yes. And I'll say, okay, awesome. Before I actually like push the button on this, I want to make sure we understand what a lock commitment means. It means that Guild is going to set aside these funds for you today at this market's pricing. This will be your interest rate for the life of this loan. So if interest rates go up in 3 days, I'm not going to call you and say, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, the market moved. Your interest rate is now 3.5. And you can't call me in 3 days if the market goes down and say that you want the 3% interest rate. Like, we're in this together. We're committed to this interest rate. So once we say yes, you've got to put your blinders on. You've got to put your fingers in your ears. You can't pay attention to what's going on because neither one of us know which direction this is going to go. And we've decided that at this interest rate, we're meeting your goals of the refinance, and we're going to see this through to the end. Are you still good with me locking in and protecting that rate at 3.25? And then they say yes, and that has stopped the client saying,
Hey, we lost you, Amber. Is it just me?
interest rate.
Oh, there, you're back. So
Okay. Did you guys hear me?
I love that. Yeah, we heard you. You skipped out for just a second.
Okay.
So giving clarity, getting commitment. You only have a minute before we bring Renee in, but how are you positioning the total cost analysis in that conversation? How does it fit into everything you just described?
I do it on every single client. Like, we don't have a loan transaction where we don't do a total cost analysis. And I'm very about like strategy. I think if I didn't go into mortgage, I might've gone into financial planning, because I'm really passionate about how can we structure a mortgage in a way that fits into someone's financial plan. So without doing a TCA, I don't know how I do that. And so it's the foundation of our consultations. It's what we send to every refinance client. I mean, the ability to put together a TCA on a refinance, do a video to walk them through the strategy that you can come up with, and then be able to have a follow-up phone call is so time efficient than having to try to have that conversation over the phone. Maybe both spouses aren't there on the phone, then you have to relay it. So it just makes it so much more effective, and it's such a wow factor.
That is awesome. You know, it's so funny seeing Amber. You guys don't know this, but Amber used to work for my wife and I years ago. I take zero credit for her success. It's all on her. And I think that she just crushed it in two areas where most of us struggle. One is how we ask for referrals. I thought that was just genius. And I also think the way that you talk about the rate lock and you basically get that commitment to keep those calls coming is huge. So all of you should re-listen to that and make sure you implement that. What do you have to say, Renee?
You know, I love how just she's so what's the word, professional about how she delivers it. You can tell she's practiced this over and over and over and over again. And so I love that she said swipe and adapt, because there isn't a single person on this call that hasn't swiped and adapted something from somebody else. And don't be afraid to do that, and then make it your own. She's setting the stage for referrals. That's something that it's been around forever, but it's a lost art too, that most people don't set the stage. They don't train the client to understand that they're going to focus on them to be able to ask for that later. Most people skip over that process and then find themselves, getting very poor results when they ask once for a referral and get nothing. They go, oh, that doesn't work. Well, they didn't do it right. And so I love that it's part of the process. It's there. You own the process. Once you're working with Amber, you know that this is how it's going to go. This is the step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And when you're in the hands of a professional, you surrender. If I control my stuff every day, but if I'm in the hands of a pro, if I'm buying a car, getting life insurance, whatever it is, and they say, here's how it's going to work, I'm like, oh, thank God, somebody that knows what they're doing. And I just go along for the ride and I enjoy it. What I also love, if you didn't see it, her script is genius. She is preempting every objection before they come up. And so that is the mastery of scripting and presentation, is when you already know these 5, 6, 10 objections are coming, and you're going to bring them up ahead of time and preempt them and really diminish their impact on the conversation before the client gets a chance to. What's interesting is when you do that, the client begins to think of an objection, the sales professional brings it up, and it goes away, and the client's going, wow, they're really in tune with what I'm thinking. That is the client experience when that happens. And she did that over and over and over again. And so what it tells me is that she's really also, this is what I love, Amber's really in tune with the client's understanding of lingo. If you notice, what that means to you is, now you may not know what that means, but here's what that means to you. She'll use a language that's used in mortgage, and then she'll make it into layman's terms. And she did that, 5 to 10 times over and over and again. And when somebody does that, it makes even more trust built between the two parties. In this industry, most people speak mortgage speak outside of the mortgage world. And so most people don't understand what the hell's going on. So Amber, excellent job.
Thank you.
Terrific. So next up, we've got none other than Ryan Grant, 49 loans for April for $28 million. Hey, Ryan, how did you end up closing out the month last month?
Hey everyone. Hey Todd. We did great. We were a little short of that number. I think we ended up probably around 42. We have rollover, the always fun rollover into May. So I think, like Josh said, May should be another big month. But just really fortunate and really grateful for what we have going on right now.
That is awesome. So we're going to jump right in with scripts, because as Renee already hinted at, you are a master. Talk about how your script is of using you versus another lender.
Yeah, so we always try and point out our uniqueness to the client. And so I always break that down. We have a kind of a packet that we give a client that breaks down our strategy into 3 parts. And it's how we help a client before a transaction, how we help a client during a transaction, and most importantly, how we help a client after a transaction. So before the transaction, we let them know there's a lot that goes into this. First of all, we don't care if you ever buy, sell, or finance a home. We just want to make sure you have all of the information, education to make a really confident and intellectual decision. So we kind of remove the outcome from the front of it, which removes their sales radar, right? And so we say, look, we just need to focus on, is this a good thing for you? Does it make sense? We'll do an equity analysis plan. If it's a refinance, we'll do a financial transition plan. If it's a purchase, both of which we use the total cost analysis for. And we just help them understand if doing what they think they're going to do is important. 44% of Americans have some form of regret within 1 to 2 years after they bought a home, which is truly a study. And that's simply because most mortgage professionals simply take your order and then present to you what you've ordered, as opposed to challenging your assessment or making you really think through the process. So we talk about the before process, how we're going to make them stand out, make them look like a cash buyer, all that fun stuff. Then we get into during, and we really talk about our client experience, which is allowing them to experience the joy of becoming a homeowner, reducing the stress, reducing the anxiety, allowing them to go through that process with ease. But we kind of downplay that because getting a mortgage is not all that difficult, right? It's just math. What we do let them know is the most important reason why our clients use us, and over 75% of our clients who have polled have said this, is our commitment to helping them post-closing, right? Because there's a big difference between just owning a home and becoming a very successful homeowner. And there's plenty of lenders out there that will sell you a mortgage and then say, good luck, hope you know what you're doing. But there's very few, to my knowledge, that are commit to helping you grow your generational wealth, save money, make really smart decisions, and plan for future real estate goals. And so we have an entire platform built around that. We present that to them. We show them what it will mean to them and their family long term. And I say, look, you can save an eighth or a quarter anywhere at any time, right? But we can make you or save you 10 times that number over the life of your loan over the next 30 plus years. And most people just don't know what we do exists. So once they realize it, they stop thinking about, the interest rate versus us and ABC online. And they start realizing there's a lot that I don't know, right? We don't teach real estate or finance anywhere in our society. So how would anybody know what to do with their mortgage, when to use equity, when to pay down debt? So we point all that out in the consultation, and we say, look, if you're 100% confident that you can handle all these areas of real estate or finance, then you may want to go with the cheap route. But 99% of America is very well understanding that they cannot do that. So they gravitate to us because they realize that we're going to be a partner with them long term.
Well, so talk about that transition. How does that after they close call, how do you kick off the after portion of your business?
Yeah, so we have a platform we're a part of called the Art of Homeownership, which basically allows them to get 6 really unique services, everything from moving into the home to home concierge service to monthly real estate wealth digest, annual financial reviews, maximizing wealth through real estate, being able to leverage equity to do renovations if they're going to sell a house. So it's a platform we can commit to and we can show them. And immediately once we fund, we put it into that system, and that system just takes off, right? And so the clients are the beneficiaries of it. And we always get asked, like, how can you afford to do this, right? How can you afford to help us for 30 years if we've only done a loan with you 30 years ago? And I quite simply say, look, most companies, like Quicken, will spend $400 million on Super Bowl commercials, operating kind of like a lawnmower without a bag, because they realize their past clients won't come back, so they keep having to find more. We just take those same marketing dollars and we invest in the livelihood of our clients. So if I can make you a more successful homeowner, right, and I can help you navigate the next 30 years of the changes and evolutions in your life, right, you're going to always use us, and you'll refer us to all of your friends and family, because again, the mortgage is not that difficult, but the next 30 years is real challenging, especially right now, right? So that's when people start realizing, okay, there's a lot more to this. And if they're going to commit that to me, then great, we're in.
So I love that lawnmower without a bag analogy, made me laugh. But then how do you also use that to adopt new clients into your aftercare system?
Yeah, that's kind of one of the funnest parts about what we're doing right now is we don't have to talk to someone who wants to buy or sell or finance a home to bring them into our world as a client, right? Most people wait for the consumer to decide. So, if Renee is the client, he has to decide to buy, sell, or finance a home before I even know he exists, right? And then hopefully he finds me, which he probably won't, because there's plenty of companies spending more money on advertising than I am. And then if he does find me, he's going to have to figure out why me versus a cheaper route. And we all know there's always a cheaper route, right? And so if I want to not just focus on the 1% of the population who's going to do something now and the 99% of the population who is not, I need to give them a really strong value proposition as to why they should communicate with me well in advance of that. So, we recently became the preferred lender for Facebook and all 40,000 of their employees, and we were able to sign up 200 of their employees in a 4-hour time period up at the Facebook campus. And they didn't want anything to do with real estate or finance. They just wanted the value that we were going to provide to them. And the script was real simple. Hey, Renee, is anyone helping you in all 6 of these areas of your life, whether you rent or own a home? No, nobody is. And they always laugh. Like, my mortgage lender never calls me. My realtor never calls me. Right? And they kind of like a joke. It's not a joke, right? Like, it's their life. So when we tell them we're going to commit to them, we're going to invest in them in advance, they sign up in a heartbeat, right? It's our strategy of showing value before expecting any sort of service transaction.
So aside from that transition to art of home ownership, how are you asking family, friends, past clients for referrals right now?
Kind of in that same vein. So, if anyone in our ecosystem is on that platform, so they're all getting all those consistent benefits long-term. And then all we do is I'd say, Todd, how's everything going, man? Hey, I know you're on, the Art of Homeownership platform. Are you enjoying the concierge? Are you enjoying this, that, the other, all 6 of the services? Yes. Todd, who else do you know right now that you think would benefit from those services? Knowing it doesn't cost them anything. We're not selling anything. Who else would benefit from us helping them through this challenging time right now, in a time when they're not getting a lot of proactive advice or guidance, as you know, right? And then, oh yeah, my friend, my brother, my coworker, and then we ask for the employer contact information, so then we can become the preferred vendor for that employer, which is how we got the Facebook relationship. And so there's just so many things we can do. I think Denise said it well. By the way, everybody on this has been incredible so far. I think I have 12 pages of notes, but the opportunity we have to be the epicenter of someone's financial world is pretty significant, right? Because we can kind of be the home office, the family office for 99% of America who can't afford their own version of a family office. Right? We can help them with their debt. We can help them with their real estate. We can help them with their protection, their overall retirement plan, because we have the knowledge of what they're trying to do. And we have typically a better understanding of people's net worth, which is 83% of the time in their home. So we have the unique ability to adopt people and ask for referrals to help people proactively. It's just almost no one thinks that a mortgage advisor does that. They just think, when I need a mortgage, I'm going to call a mortgage person, and I don't care who it is. I'm just going to find the cheapest. And we're going to try and change that. We're going to try and make it real clear that you're either going to pick the cheapest or you're going to pick the most valuable, not the best, but most people fall somewhere in the middle.
Love it. Love it. Well, thank you so much, Ryan. Real quick before I bring in Dave and Renee to debrief you, I'm going to do a quick Win by Noon plug. One thing I think a lot of you know that we have a mortgage coach edition of Win by Noon, and every year people hit me up all the time for what kind of discounts do we give on Win by Noon, and we intentionally don't, just because I don't want it to always be something that people buy. It's a thing that should provide value to you, that you should be able to figure out how to be more efficient. People to say, well, what is it? It's literally just a day planner, right? But it's also a business planning tool, which we already heard Dan talking about how he to squeeze in time and schedule time to make these calls. And I think that that's really where you guys are all going to potentially struggle coming out of here. How do I schedule and plan? And I think Win by Noon is a good opportunity for that. It's also a really good philosophy, right? This whole idea of knocking out what's most important first, even right now, where there's so much coming at us, really being laser focused on purchases in the morning, like Dan talked about, and then reacting and doing your refinances. And I think it's also a really great tool potentially for building partnerships, right? We've got about 50% of our subscribers are actually real estate agents who thankfully work typically with most of you who are loan officers. And so I just decided I would throw together a couple of options for wherever you're at in your Win by Noon relationship. Luckily, we've got some users here on the panel today, as well as a lot of you who I recognize in the crowd making comments on Facebook and here in Zoom. And I just want to make sure that you guys know my goal would be to make this super easy for you. So real quick, I'll just show you the 3 different ways you can inexpensively work with Win by Noon. First off, you just go to winbynoon.com/scripts. And what we've done there is just made, for those of you who've never used it before, kind of make it risk-free. You basically sign up. You'll get the first month for free. It's $12.99 a month after that. And if you get the planner and you think it stinks, then you just cancel and you got a free trial of Win by Noon. If you love it, which I'm sure you will, then you'll go ahead and you will jump in and you'll keep going on with your inexpensive $12.99 a month subscription. If you close one more loan, I think it pays for itself for like 20 years. So it's like not that big of a commitment to make you a little bit more productive, even if you just use it as a day planner, a lead tracker, and a to-do list. For those of you who want to use it actually to help your people come out of quarantine, I decided to create the post-quarantine launch kit where you can actually get a loan officer version as well as 3 real estate agent launches. We'll be running a couple of webinars so that you can bring your real estate agents onto those webinars, and we'll help you launch with your real estate agent. We'll help them grow their business, which will in turn help you grow your business. And then you can be their trusted advisor, working with them and their accountability partner to increase and build your relationship. If you're already an existing subscriber and you want to use that, just go ahead and send us an email afterwards, and we'll send you 4 real estate agent launch editions. This would be normally the price you'd get if you bought 10 or more. So we just tried to make it a no-brainer for you guys to jump in and buy. And then lastly, we kind of had the custom branded launch kit. This is for those of you who want to make a bigger commitment. We actually have about 500 realtors every month who get branded versions. So just like this one says mortgage coach on it, you can get one that's got your branding on there and all of your information on there to pass out to your agents. So if you get 10 or more, you'll have that opportunity to come in there. We'll waive the custom branding fee and we'll get those custom printed so it's got your information on there. So another great way if you want to go in a little bigger direction. And then for the first 10 loan officers that jump on and take advantage of that, I'll personally, myself or Adam, my right hand, will jump on with you and your real estate agents. We'll host a Zoom lunch and learn where we'll help you launch your agents with Win by Noon. It'll just be you and your group on there. So head over to winbynoon.com /scripts. You know me, I don't love talking and selling and commercializing what we do, but ultimately what I know is all the folks that I've got using Win by Noon tell me day in and day out that it's helped make them a little bit more productive. It's helped them close multiples of more loans. And all I'm saying is if you can close one more loan, it pays for itself. And then ultimately we've got kind of a fun community. And I think this whole idea of pushing your most important activities first, figuring out what is it that I need to do to get where I'm trying to go, right? What activities lead to those results? And we just love the opportunity to be part of it. And, you know, ultimately in the end, love the fact that I get to do this with Dave and we get to hang out and be part of this community. So thank you guys for all being here and putting up with me giving a really brief commercial.
Hey, Todd, there's not a single loan officer that's allowed to ask for a discount during these interest rates. So
I know they ask for it all the time, though, Renee. It's crazy. Like, I don't want to order it yet in case you put it on sale. Literally, it's the only time I ever offer a discount is here. The one other time I think was the last time that Dave had me talk about it on Mortgage Coach. So love.
So guys, I am a big fan of Win by Noon, both the concept and the planner. Get some. Go to winbynoon.com. So Renee, breakdown on Ryan Grant, and then I'm going to bring Sophia into the call.
I am such a Ryan Grant fan. I'm literally a Ryan Grant fanboy. Sorry, buddy, but so calm and so clear on his purpose. That is, I mean, when somebody's that clear on their purpose, why they exist, and what they're doing, there's no shaking them. And when you're in the presence of that, it's, you know, you're in a plan. And so you notice how he disarms the client with a bigger picture, because the client is so focused on this in front of them, and his language just brings you out to, let's take a look at the long, because you're going to be alive longer than today in this transaction. You're going to have this home for a much longer period of time. Here are the things that are going to be happening over the period of time. Did you think about that stuff? And you're thinking, I didn't. Immediately, you're different when you talk that way. There is not a single other person, unless you're part of the art of homeownership or something similar to that, that is thinking along those lines. Because right now, like you said, a lot of people are just taking orders. There's a lot of order takers. And how big the mousetrap in? Can we get the thing? Flush them out, flush them out. When I owned a mortgage company, we would send out 50 applications a night via fax and come back and have 30 of them back. And we didn't care what happened to the other 20. I mean, that was just a crazy time period because we were just taking orders. And so the long-term value of a client, Ryan understands that this is a long-term relationship. And what that means is he knows the work that he puts in now in 5 to 10 years will come back as residual value to him. Residual value, the way that a real practice should be. So if you don't know what the art of homeownership is, if you're not there, it is one of the biggest unfair competitive advantages I've ever seen. A true collection of all of the different value propositions, ways to just stand out, but it requires discipline like anything else. And so just, I don't know, Brian, if you're talking about that, or if there's a link or something like that, I mean, please plug that somehow, because that is so much value there. And so the lawnmower example without a bag, such a clear picture of differentiation of what it is. We're allocating money in a different way. We're all spending money. We just choose to do it differently. And I love too, he says, hey guys, the mortgage is not difficult. What's difficult is the longer term picture. And that is called positioning. He takes himself out of the competitive world into a blue ocean where no one else is playing and has fun talking about goals, visions, dreams. And like you said, 44% of people have a regret. Knowing that says there's a market and a need for it. So just a huge high five, brother. Love it.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Love it, guys. So check out homeownership.com, link down below. I've also added a link to my last interview with Ryan where he, with a lot of transparency, a lot of authenticity, shared how he won the trust and respect to become the preferred lender for Facebook employees. So check out a link in comments for that.
Dave, one more thing, just real quick. If anybody wants our post-closing thing, I know we're going to talk about that, our post-closing script. I'm happy to send that out. You can post it if you want.
Yeah, if you could share that in the Mortgage Coach Facebook group, that would be great. And maybe you and I will even do a longer interview on that next week sometime.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you, everyone.
All right, sounds good. Right on. So let's bring up our next guest, first time on SCRIPT-a-PALOOZA, Sophia Traviakis. Did I say that last name close to right?
Did. I know it's hard to say. Can you hear me okay?
No,
Okay.
I hear you great. So guys, I interviewed Sophia for the first time about a month or two ago. She's doing over $100 million in production out of Boston and closed around 8.5 in April. So is that about right? Is that how your April ended up?
Ended up a little bit better. I quoted it was 19 units under shy of a 10 million the 10 million mark. So it's a little bit better.
Nice, nice. Well, Sophia is killing it. If you want to hear a whole interview that I did with her, check it out. I interviewed her for a full hour on Tuesday. And I also did a 20-30-minute interview. She's a very special producer. Let's talk about scripts that you're using when you're keeping in touch with realtors in today's market, and how you're using scripts to get more referrals from those agents.
Yeah, I think that as many said, Jay especially, I think I probably sell very similar to him. I joined the business when I was very young. I was 18 years old. So I had to really, to be able to speak confidently, I always say knowledge is power. So for me, I really wanted to learn product and knowledge that I could really describe to the client the best outcome and really feel like I was their advisor long-term and short-term. So, here in Boston, we also use attorneys as part of our team. So it's not just realtors. We also have real estate agents and attorneys as part of our team. So my approach is definitely a team approach. And I've had, multiple clients say, well, my realtor and my attorney, I don't want to reinvent the wheel here. And it's almost like a stamp of approval if everybody in your team, is on the same page. So for me, a lot of the scripts and I build business with my realtors is, this is our team. Make sure my team knows, my attorneys, my realtors know about Mortgage Coach and how I use that as part of my selling process. It helps them. They say, please call Sophia to talk to them about your options, and she'll explain that to you. And sometimes they're talking about Mortgage Coach, but they don't really understand what to call it. I do call it total cost analysis, but after today, I really like some of the other versions, so I might be altering that. But I do call it a total cost analysis, and they really rely on me, my realtors, to be able to give their clients that overall, the options they have. I work with a lot of first-time home buyers. There's a lot of first-time home buyer programs in the state, especially in the city of Boston, and what they can offer them. The affordability is very tough here. So being able to get down payment assistance and being able to show that on a Mortgage Coach is just key. And a lot of the real estate agents, even new real estate agents, believe it or not, in this quarantine time, I think because of a lot of the larger banks here have just kind of stopped, and they're not, advertising. They're not out on social media. They're not answering their phones. I have gotten calls from real estate agents that I've known, big producers, that just call me up to give me business. It's unbelievable.
Love it. So there are more pre-approvals, like your funnel of people that are pre-approved is probably bigger than normal. And there's also longer periods of time. Any scripting you have or any things that you're doing regularly to stay in touch with your pre-approval pipeline?
Yeah, so for, we also don't like to call it pre-approval. Me and my team, we call it a home buyer's analysis. It even says that on our letter. So we call it a home buyer analysis. We don't call it a pre-qualification or a pre-approval. And it actually even says on our letters that, you know, we have done an analysis of this client's credit. We've run them through a decision engine. And so our letter itself kind of takes it away from the pre-approval, a little bit how I believe Denise said. So we also are very similar in that route, that we don't like to call it that, so that they feel like they are going to get a decline. You know, so we call it a home buyer's analysis. We do have drip campaigns. So any of my new people coming in, I use Surefire. So we're doing drip campaigns on them. And then I call them after 10 days of doing the initial letter or our home buyer analysis, and, you know, ask them how their search has been going. Also call the realtor and say, how has everything been going? Can I help you with any of the, you know, programs that they've been looking at? What type of homes have they been viewing, so that I can then, you know, alter the total cost analysis to help their buyers, or help them, you know, maybe get approved for more, or if they'll start looking at multifamilies. So there's so many ways, I think, to help keep the client engaged, so that they, you know, don't jump ship, and they still feel confident in this time that they're doing the right thing by looking and by purchasing. I think a lot of buyers are a little skeptical if they should wait to buy, or, you know, with values maybe dropping. And I always tell them the same thing, you know, that I don't think with rates being low, and there's still a lot of people purchasing, and until rates go up, I don't see house values dropping.
Love it, love it. So you obviously have a huge pipeline, lots of business. Last question here, and then I'll bring Todd back in to transition to the next person. But how would you call, like if you were a new loan officer and you were calling friends and family looking for loans right now, how would you make those calls? Or are you, or anyone on your team, making those kinds of calls to your past client database?
Well, definitely. I do the annual review is one of my biggest. So that now I've been kind of pumping that up a little bit. Anybody over a certain interest rate, we have been calling. My script would be, you know, again, hi, how are you doing in this time? You know, I'm a mom with 3 kids. How are you doing with your kids at home? And just kind of asking them how they're doing, and seeing how I can add some value. Maybe it's not even dropping their interest rate, or just saying, is this the right program? How's your job? Has your income changed? Can I help, you know, reduce your payments? Whatever I can do to try to help them. But it is an easy conversation now, just because rates are lower. So a lot of people, I had a client that, you know, they were just looking to possibly do a cash out refinance. And I said, well, I don't, you know, you need to also pay off this and this and this. And I know Josh mentioned, you know, saving $700 a month for one of his clients, but it really is, I always let them know that I'm here as a long-term financial advisor for you. And, you know, any questions or any referrals you need from me, if it's a painter, if it's a, you know, a contractor, if it's just an insurance agent, please feel free to contact me as your advisor, as, you know, being able to provide you anybody or any value that I can help you with. And so I think that is good. People will call me for just random things. So I really like to be there for them as their support.
Love that.
Love
That's how you know you're crushing it, when you're the person they call for random things, that you've done that job of truly connecting with them. And I love that you call it a home buyer analysis, not a pre-qualification. What other feedback do you have, Renee?
I was just writing down here literally just something that just dawned on me as she was saying there. One, I love how you train your realtors, and it's clear. What I wrote here though was, you have flawless execution of fundamentals. And that is so, it's one of my favorite things to see. Is there's been things that have been around, but then we lose sight of them. You're dripping on clients in a good way. You are obviously a true advisor if they're coming back to you in those for other questions. So they see you much bigger than just a mortgage person. They see you as somebody that has insights to offer over the bigger picture. I love that you're using annual review. I mean, it's such a great thing to be able to go out there and do that. Love that you're staying in front of the clients, and just the fact that you're being that true advisor, I think really sets you apart to do that. And again, what I love is what you're doing is approachable. It's something that people can do, and but you make it look easy because you've put so much work into it. That's the thing that I want people to understand, is that the amount of time, and I'll ask you, have you put a lot of time into mastering these things?
23 years.
Exactly. And that's why we would say, wow, you're so lucky you're natural at this. You'd be like, yeah, 23 years of hard work. Yeah, no, it's not natural. This is hard work. So bravo. Excellent job.
Well, super excited to bring in our next guest. You all know him if you've been part of the community, Keith Collins. Keith, 8.6 million in April. Congrats on that. Why don't you give a quick background for those who don't know who you are, where you are in the country, and who you work with?
Yeah, thanks guys. Really appreciate it. I run a region here in Northern California. I've been doing home loans for about 15 years. And so I run my own personal production team, but then my region, so we did 8.6 million last month. And then the region did just shy of 70 million. So I kind of run a dual role here, but yeah.
Awesome.
Deal.
So I know you wanted to kick off, you had some great ideas, and you were going to kick off with your right hook for your real estate agents.
Yeah, so I know that we're gonna have a lot of scripts, and this is SCRIPT-a-PALOOZA, and so I've got a couple things that I say and go through, but I think landing an agent right now is a little bit more of a process necessarily than a script, and we have to approach going after agents different than maybe we'd go after customers, and so I try to keep it kind of light and playful. We all know that, you know, we work with people that we like, and people work with us when they like us, and so we have to show them kind of like who we are, and social media is a great avenue for that. But if you haven't had an opportunity to kind of show them how awesome you are through like crushing a transaction or saving a transaction, there's a process that you have to go through rather than just scripts. Building Champions did a thing, Todd, you might be aware of this. It's called Road to Referrals.
Yeah, Bill Hart's
roadtoreferrals.com. It's awesome. So I can post it in there. I use it a lot. And really it's like 7 touches over 7 weeks. And the idea behind it is that in that 8th week, the agent should be calling you right now. That doesn't always happen, but we want to be bringing awareness to agents as to who we are before you reach out to them in that initial cold call, and kind of targeting agents is kind of an audition, right, as to who you are, and if you're doing that audition right, you want to use it to your advantage. So we have kind of a 12-step process that we do when we're, saying, hey, here's agent A. I've identified them as a target that works for me. And here's the things that we're going to do over the next, 2 to 3 months to try to get an appointment with them. And it's hopefully to the point where they're like, enough, I'll meet with you, right? But one of the things that I use is I use the industry against it a little bit. And we all know that a lot of loan officers are very inconsistent with follow-up. They don't have great follow-up plans. And especially right now, because they're chasing refinances. I mean, I'm talking to realtors and they're saying, hey, I haven't heard from my lender in 3 months, and it's a travesty. So what I'll do is I'll point that out on a call. So if I've earned the right to say this, right? So I followed up with them over 2, 3, 4 months. There's been handwritten cards, video, text messages. I'm engaging them on social media. They're in Facebook friends lists. Like, we're doing all these different touches. I'll throw something out there because we are their primary lead conversion partner. I think that's the most important value that you can add to a realtor. Is they're working on an open house at, for 8 hours on a weekend, and they take this referral and they hand it to you and say like, hey, help me, close my, pay my mortgage this month. That's that primary handoff, is us to convert. And so I'll say something like, hey, if your lender is not following up with your leads the way that I'm following up with you, maybe we should talk. And that, but you can't say that, right, until you've earned the right to say that through consistent follow-up. And that's something that for me has kind of changed that conversation. And then the other thing that I like to say, which is kind of fun, I don't know, it's kind of cute, whatever, but there's a point when you get to the relationship with an agent where like, you can kind of tell the next step is a referral, but you haven't got it yet. And I don't like to ask for referrals. I don't know if that's maybe my gap and I just need to get over it, but I hate it when an agent calls and asks me for a referral. So I don't really want to call and ask them for a referral, but there's that place where I know that they like me, I like them. The next step's referral. I'll throw out something like, hey, when's the dream team going to realize that the dream team would just start working together? And it's worked a few times. I don't use that all the time, but that's worked, and that's usually through text. But I think it's more, like I said, the process as opposed to the actual scripting that you do that brings awareness to an agent to the point where like, hey, I think Keith is somebody that I should have a conversation with.
Love it. Love it. I know you said you also have 3 things that you ask every listing agent. So what would those be?
Yeah, so it's a little different right now with COVID, but that's one of the things. I think one of the best ways to get new business is from listing agents. And so kind of like what Dan was saying, is a very specific process for reaching out to listing agents. So when I get into contract, well, first I ask all my agents to copy me on the offer. So when they copy me on the offer, that's the agent telling me to reach out to the listing agent. It's usually very easy to find the listing agent's contact information, either it be in the contract or you hopefully Google it. And I call them and try to pitch my buyer. So that's my first introduction. And then when we get into contract, I usually get a voicemail, but I'll leave a voicemail that says something like, hey, this is Keith Collins. I'm the lender on 123 Main Street. I have a couple of questions about the property. Can you please give me a call when you get a chance? And they'll call me back. And when we have that conversation, there's really 3 things that I want to go over with them to really set myself apart. The first thing that I say is communication is key to having a smooth transaction. And I want to make sure that you're aware of everything that's going on in this process. What's the best way for me to communicate with you? And then is there anybody else in your team that I should also be updating? So transaction coordinator or assistant. They'll give me that information, and then we need to make sure that we execute, because if we set that bar and then we don't execute, it's actually probably worse. The second thing that I ask them, is there anything going on with the property that we need to be aware of? And right now I'm adding, are there any COVID related reasons why we'll have, the appraiser will have problems getting access to the house? Because that's important. And then the third question I always ask, and I think it's a nice touch point, is are there any travel plans that you or your seller have that we need to be aware of and work around so that we can maintain this escrow? And I think that sets me apart. And then I'm following up the listing agent every week. And then one of the big things that I do that I think really moves the needle after the close of escrow is I give them a review. So I'll go, if they're on Yelp, if they're on Zillow, if they're on Facebook, I'll give them a review in all those places, and they see that. And then usually that's kind of that next step where it opens up the door for me to ask for a meeting.
So you got 1 minute, Keith, and then we're going to bring in Renee to debrief you. But how are you creating energy for people that want to get over the hump on rates? You know, how are you creating urgency for them to lock in now and a minute or less?
Minute or less. Okay, so I think if you're not doing a TCA and a Zoom presentation, I mean, we're not meeting with customers face to face, but I mean, at minimum, you've got to do a live, you know, Facebook, not sorry, Facebook, but Mortgage Coach Live. But you got to be doing a Zoom presentation. And so I'm prepared for that meeting, doing a Zoom presentation. And one of the things that I'm showing them is the intraday chart. And I think, so on MBS, and you can see how this thing moves so much every day. And so when you're doing the total cost analysis, you can show them the benefit of the option that they have in front of them, but then you also show them how quickly interest rates move. And I find that creates some urgency. Well, where when I show them that, the next kind of step that they do or next question that they ask is, when can we lock? Right now, and that for me is something that's kind of getting them over that hurdle.
Love it. So guys, the Rate Watch Day Watch is something you could do. Jeremy Focier may cover that in the close because I know he does that. I also know when I did my full interview with Jay Grohl, he is always showing just 1 minute. He's showing the Day Watch app and he's showing that, hey, rates don't change daily, they change hourly. Renee, how would you unpack what Keith just did?
Just another professional in doing this. Keith, always good to hear what you're saying here, my brother. It's funny, I hadn't heard of the road to referrals, the seven touches. I'm going to have to talk to Bill about that and take a look at it. Again, he talked about 12 steps. The pros have steps. They have processes they follow. And people say, well, what's the best one? What's the one you use? Just like what's the best CRM? It's the one that you use. But they have a process that they go through. I love that. And I think you said something that I think people lose. They forget. They don't do enough. They don't earn the right. They don't earn the right. And you're earning the right to be able to say certain things. That's what presentation's about. That's what value delivery and service is about, is to be able to earn the right to say the things to add the most value. And so I love that you did that. Is you're earning the right for a referral. You're earning the right to say the truth, which is, hey man, if they're not following up with you the way I have been, then we should probably talk. That's an honest statement. That's direct and to the point. And I think that's needed in today's society. I love what you said about the dream team, a little bit of humor, but yet it's honest. I love it. And I really like how you make your scripts current based on what's going on. you have a script, you use it, but you're saying, okay, we're in a little bit of COVID times right now, so let's adjust. You have to be able to understand that there has to be fluidity with the things that you're learning. Always stay current to make sure that you're relevant with what's happening with the times.
Love it. And Keith, I love that you've only been using Mortgage Coach for 2 some odd years, and you are almost a Grandmaster Red Belt. You're only a couple hundred TCAs away from that, but you're a black belt times 2, bro. So you crushed it, dude. Thank you very much.
Man. We'll hit it this year, dude. 1,000 TCAs this year for sure. Like, it's a thing.
Oh, dude, you're like doing 70 a month. You'll be there in 3 months. Perfect. So let's bring up Katie Trinidad. You notice, Katie, I didn't make it Katie Pastor Trinidad. It's just Katie Trinidad now in Mortgage Coach land.
See that? Thanks, Dave. I don't even know what I go by anymore.
Yeah, right. So guys, Katie did over 50 million last year. In April, 7.5 million. Did you end up hitting that for April?
I did, yeah. I actually had 18 units, and I also had my biggest origination month last month as well. So hopefully, if everything goes well and goes as planned, I'll close 32 units for over 11 million this month.
Wow. Congratulations on all the impact and value. So let's focus on how you're serving first-time homebuyers. How are you? Go ahead.
Yeah, so first-time homebuyers have certainly been my niche since I started with Partners Mortgage about 6 years ago. And I realized that there's just this need for educating people, and educating, when I say educating people, it's educating the homebuyer and also educating the realtor. So that's one of the reasons why I chose that niche, is because of that care that I can deliver to these people that need it and find value in that. So when I start with a first-time home buyer, it is a lot of empathy. It's a lot of reassuring them. It's getting to know kind of like what their thoughts are, what their pain points are. And I've been doing this for so long that I can usually predict kind of how they're feeling. They're all feeling a little nervous. They're not sure what questions they should be asking. So that is really my value proposition for first-time home buyers, is, staying ahead of that and being empathetic to that, this is a really big decision, and it's going to take a team, and it's going to take time for you to get to a point that you're really feeling comfortable to take on this decision of homeownership. And my role is to make sure that you have the strategies put into place so you know what options are when the time comes. So that's just a little bit about my script and working with first-time home buyers.
So it sounds like, ultra education, lots of transparency. What about scripts with agents in today's market? What scripts are you using most often with agents?
Yeah, so with agents, I'm grateful. I'm so blessed to be in the position that I'm in that I've never cold called an agent. 100% of my business is referral. So it's referral from a realtor partner that I've been doing business with for a long time, or it's a referral from a past client. And I think the reason why it's 100% referral based is because they do see the care that I'm putting into their people. And it's also the communication. If anybody sits down with a realtor and asks what's important to them, they're going to say that communication is number one to them. So I have a process that when I go into contract, kind of like Keith, when I go into contract with that person, with a new listing agent or with that listing agent, I have templates that I send out. So I'm sending them a template that is confirming the important dates that everybody wants to know. When is our loan contingency removal? When's our appraisal contingency removal? That's my initial contact outside of being proactive in making sure that our client's offer is getting accepted, and making sure that that listing agent has the information that they need to feel confident about our offer. So it's that communication, and I'm staying in communication with that listing agent and with that agent throughout the process. And of course, with the client as well.
I love it. So last question, minute or less. We're running a little bit behind, guys. So we are bringing up Cody Touche next. We're closing with Jeremy, and then Mortgage Coach Community, myself, Renee, and Todd. We're going to stay on here and answer as many questions as you have. And for whoever the leaders that are left will collaborate and add more value after the show. So last question, minute or less, how and when are you positioning Mortgage Coach into your sales process?
Yeah, so Mortgage Coach is being positioned in my initial conversation that I'm having with the client. In my initial conversation that I have with the client, I'm letting them know that purchasing a home, again, there's strategies to going about managing the biggest financial debt that they're going to have. So when we're looking at those strategies, because there's multiple, I'm going to set up either a face-to-face meeting. Now we're doing Zoom meetings, and I'm going to send you a link that I want you to click on, and I want you to have that open so that when we do have our Zoom meeting, you have the information in front of you, and I'm going to walk you through all your different strategies so you can determine what's going to be best for you. So that's how I position it. Now I'm positioning it with obviously my refi clients, letting them know that I have a side-by-side comparison, and I'm also preparing a strategy as to how they can pay off that loan sooner and save interest in the short term and over the long term as well. So it's just setting expectations so they know what's coming and how it's coming.
Well, thank you so much, Katie. You crushed it. Renee, what takeaways do you have? And then Todd, I'll let you bring on the next guest. Jeremy Focier, we will close out with you right after Cody Touche. And remember, audience, we will keep rolling. As long as you have questions, we will be here to answer them. Renee?
Yeah, I'm also a big Katie fan. So Katie, so good to see you. It's been too long. I love she's talking about empathy, and in her scripting again. I don't want to keep repeating. Make sure you go back to listen to some of the other commentary I gave. But she's using preemptive strategy in what she's doing, and she's learning from the past. She said, I can kind of predict what's going on. There's a fine line with predicting and guessing, but she's predicting, but yet still going through the process to confirm her assumption and confirm her prediction. I love how she's doing that. But what I want you to get with Katie is that if you know Katie, she's immediately lovable. And that means that scripting is so much more than just the words. It's in the tone. There's all the underlying things that are going on that just really build that comfort. And Katie is just a master at disarming you and just melting you and just be like, okay, what are we doing next? And then she goes into the plan. You know that you're with a professional, and it's fun. You're just immediately lovable, Katie. So excellent job.
Renee, thank you. Thanks.
I think we're all Katie fans, so that's really awesome. I don't see Dave putting up Cody's slide, but I'm going to introduce Cody Money Touche based on that background you got, Cody. And why don't you there's a slide right there. 23 million in April. High five. Was that the final number you hit? Oops, you're muted, Cody.
Oh, sorry about that, guys. Yeah, just like some others, we ended up rolling some as well. A lot of refis in that mix. We ended up closing about 9 million in purchase that month, so a fair amount of refi rollovers. But this month looks like it's going to be a barn burner. 37 million on the books right now for about 90 loans.
That is awesome. That is awesome. So let's just start off. And how are you differentiating yourself on that initial client call?
Yeah, so I made some notes on this, and a lot of our client calls are initial client calls are realtor referrals. So the first thing that we want to do on that call is honor the referral, right? So we find out where they came from, how they met them, how they know that person, and sometimes it's a strange connect, right? I met them in line to pay for gas. I met them at an open house. I met them, like they don't really know that real estate agent. And so we're able to edify them in that initial conversation and confirm their choice of who they've chosen to represent them from a real estate perspective. So our agents really love that, and they know that we do that. And as part of our consultation with the agent, we ask them, what do you want me to say about you? Like, how do you want me to edify you inside that conversation? Here's the things that I would normally say. And, oh my gosh, I can't believe you met Todd at an open house. Todd's one of the best agents in the entire neighborhood, entire Northwest. We've worked with him for a number of years. And I've been able to say this several times, has represented me on a purchase in the past, right? So I've got personal experience with them. So man, great choice on Todd as your agent. Really good job finding him. You're lucky to have him. And then let them tell me a little bit more about that. So then as far as how we set that up initially, we love to build with the triangle for trust. So I'm going to, and again, somebody mentioned this earlier, swipe and adapt, right? I don't think I have a single original idea, but I've got a really good ability to take from little pieces from here and there and there and here. So that triangle for trust is where I let the client know that they were trusted, or they trusted their referring person. So the real estate agent that sent them to us, they trusted that person to give me a call. That person has trusted me in the past many times to help their clients get from A to B and to close. And now I hope to earn your trust by doing what I say I'm going to deliver on. Right. So then we line out what we're going to deliver on. Right. So the idea behind what we do is we're going to lean on what we have in that initial conversation. Right. So for me, I've got 20 years in the mortgage biz. I've closed 3,000 plus loans. We're a top 1% originator in the entire country for 5 years running. Caliber Home Loans, the company I work for, has been the #1 originator of mortgages in Washington State for the last 3 years running, right? So having those stats and having some social proof and being able to say, like, this is the part of our organization that I'm part of, for somebody that's newer on the call, maybe they don't have that reputation or that length of time in the biz, lean on what you have, right? Lean on your company, lean on your branch, lean on your team if you're part of a bigger organization, right? If I was on the Ryan Grant team, I'd certainly lean on Ryan Grant's experience and expertise. So you don't have to have all those things just to yourself, right? Lean on what you have. The other thing that we differentiate with in the initial call is the team. I utilize the team to be a selling point. I let them know that lots of loan officers out there, if they don't have a team, they've got to wear multiple hats. And so if they're wearing multiple hats, they might not be able to be on this call right now because they've got an emergency in funding, right? So I have the time and the ability to sit down with every client, meet them with Zoom now, you know, do this, or if it ends up being a phone call, we've got the ability to have that strategy session. I always say that you don't want the rest of me, you want the best of me, right? So you want that half an hour to hour consultation to really dive into your scenario. You don't want me checking your pay stub or ordering your appraisal or checking on your title. That is a job better fit for my team. And so if you're working, you know, if the alternative is the competitor is a solo loan officer, it's real easy to sell around that for me. On the other side of that, I have been sold against that way as well. So again, if you don't have a big team, sell against that, right? A client is not going to be able to talk to me every single time they need something with regard to their loan. That can be a sales point for a solo loan officer or somebody that is young and hungry and, you know, getting into the business and has more time on their hands than somebody running a big team, right? I feel like I have the better expertise, but somebody can have a script around that if they don't have the big team. So weekly updates, somebody mentioned that before. We update both buyers, a listing agent and selling agent all throughout the transaction. And then the last week of the transaction, if we don't have docs to escrow, we send a daily update to escrow, listing agent, buyer's agent, and buyer. So everybody's on the same page and everybody gets the same update. There's no back and forth and finger pointing and, well, you told me this or you told me that, or I didn't understand this. It's a consistent email to everybody involved. If we need to do an extension, gosh, we hate doing those, but this time right now, we're having a few more of those than we'd like. That's always a phone call. So we tell people that up front. This is how we're going to differentiate ourselves and be better suited to handle your closing than most. Our advice, right? So I think somebody mentioned it earlier, but we're going to look into what are your short-term and long-term financial goals and how can we pair a mortgage solution that's going to best fit with that. That's really, really important. And I think a lot of times people don't necessarily look into that. The overall strategy, the overall global debt perspective somebody has, and I know Josh Mettle does a great job of this. I picked that up a couple years ago after hearing him speak, really, really taking into consideration someone's overall debt, because it's very easy to be an order taker and just get somebody a mortgage. It's very least resistance, right? It ends up taking a little more time and it ends up taking a little more energy to do it the right way, but you build clients for life, for sure. And then the final close is just kind of the lower the bar close, as they call it, is I ask people, come in, everything we do is no cost, no obligation, come in and meet with us, let's schedule a Zoom meeting, get together. At very least, you'll leave with you'll be better educated about what's coming for you in buying a house. Hopefully we'll choose to do business together, but if not, you'll leave better educated and better suited to make your home purchase.
That was so good. Real quick, in a minute or less, can you give us your script for how you're getting annual reviews taken care of?
Yeah, you bet. So we start with the Ford model, right? The family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. That conversational model is a great way to break the ice and get things going. And it allows you to get in, dig in and show that you care, right? You're asking about what's going on in their world. That's really easy to do with COVID, right? People are stuck at home, they're homeschooling their wife, their mother, they're working, they're doing all these different things. And then we bring up the fact that when we closed on our transaction, we told you we would be in touch with you when we thought there was an opportunity to save you some money on your mortgage or reposition your debt. And now it's time, right? Here is the time. This is the time that we talked about when we originally got your mortgage. We'd love to go through this with you now. As far as how we set it up, generally speaking, if it's a proactive call, I don't necessarily know what they're looking for, but I've got my team already built. A TCA or an edge scenario is already built with a 30-year fixed with a point back to cover closing costs, a 30-year fixed at par, and a 30-year fixed with max cash out refinance if applicable, and then a 15-year fixed at par. So I'm prepped and armed for that meeting before the client even tells me what they need. I probably have it already dialed in, and if I don't, I can make a quick adjustment on the fly.
So guys, Cody has done 6,417 TCAs, or his team has created a bunch of them. So you're killing it, brother. Rene Rodriguez, any quick debrief before we bring in Jeremy Focier on Cody?
Yeah, I love that he talked about honoring the referral. It's it's a lost piece, that preserving that channel of somebody that trusted you. You were an extension of their brand, and being able to understand where that came from is such a big piece. I love that he brought back triangle of trust. It's a tried and true methodology that works. And I think so often we hear things often that we start to dismiss them, but all the professionals I know are doing and using that stuff. And I love that you also talked about telling the story beyond just you, but about your company, because your company is keeping your promise. And it does matter that there's a bigger story beyond you. Who's keeping that promise? And then you're talking about telling the story of your team. When you tell the story of your team, you're creating scalability, which means that you're not needed for every phone call and every email. If you're building the value of the other players in the bench that you have, you can go out there and build other business, serve other clients, and do other things. Excellent job.
Great job, brother. Thank you so much, Cody. So we are in the home stretch. We're going to interview Jeremy Focier, then myself, Renee, and any of the leaders that are left will collaborate for as long as you guys want, making sure that we're getting all your questions answered down below. Mr. Jeremy Focier, also known as J-Force. What's up, brother?
What's up?
What's up? So Jeremy closed 120 million last year. I know it was 299 loans because he made the point that he just wants to close one more loan. How did you close out the month, brother?
I closed it out very well. I did not do the 74 loans that were on there because we had some rollover, but I did a lot. It was really good. We ended up at 57 units for 24.9 million.
Congratulations, little virtual fist bump. So one of the scripts that I just love of yours right now, and I want to make sure everybody hears it, it's how you're getting referrals from your current database, right? And not current database, your active loans. Could you share people the questions that you're asking, the sequence and you're doing it, and kick things off with that?
Sure. So two things. One is I have a initial ask. Okay. So initial ask when I'm working with a client. So this is new client, you know, or it could be a past client that I'm doing a refinance for, whatever, is that once I give them a total cost analysis and they want to schedule time to go over it or they have a couple questions, once I answer those questions and I go through their total cost analysis, I send them a "we need your help" form. And it's a really, really simple form. Basically, the conversation sounds like this: "Hey, Dave, I'm glad I can answer all your questions. We're moving forward with X option. I would love to provide anyone that you know with a total cost analysis as well that you think could benefit from this process." And then they always say, "Oh, that would be great." I said, "Awesome. I'm going to send you a form. Feel free just to jot down. I'll show you guys the form. I'll share my screen. Okay. Feel free to jot down a couple names. Can you guys see this? We need your help."
We can see it, brother.
Great.
I can see it.
So this is what they get. Super, super simple. Thank you for choosing us to assist with your financing. We take pride in developing personal relationships with the clients. We'd love to continue the relationship by working with others you may know. Please take a moment to tell us a few friends, family, or coworkers we may be able to help in the future. And they have 3 opportunities to refer me, okay? Now, I will tell you that this doesn't mean that you're going to send it out and get 3 referrals every time. It doesn't mean that you'll get 2 or 1. You'll probably get 0 most of the time. But this sets the stage, okay? This sets the stage for the next ask with your current clients. The second thing that we do is whenever there is a celebration point and someone says like, hey, thank you so much, or this is awesome, or whatever it may be, we have an email script that we use. So remember, they've already been programmed. Programming is extremely important with like, will you refer us to friends or family, upfront, total cost analysis, and then the email script, which I will share with you right now, because ironically, while we were on this, I got a nice email. So this is a real email from a client. They're responding saying that basically you were done and your loan's clear to close. And they said, that's great, thank you. And then we just plop in this nice little script here that's saved called CCR email. We love helping you. Can you help me with something? My goal this year is to work with more people I like. Can you introduce me to 2 people you think I should know and can help in the future? Boop, send. So that guy just got one. So that they've already been programmed in the beginning. They show some celebration, and then I'm asking again in email. Now I'm getting 1/3 of the people I send this to are giving me a referral. Okay, so 1/3, that's huge. 33% are giving me a referral. Yeah, you should talk to my brother, Jacob. Or yeah, I have a buddy named Dave. He's struggling getting a loan right now for some reason. It happens constantly. So those are my 2 best scripts in the way that I program people up front for people that you're currently working with. And it's the easiest way to duplicate your pipeline without having to cold call.
So I want to make sure everybody connects the dots, because everybody watching this, you could have just paid for all of SCRIPT-a-PALOOZA in terms of the time and attention that you gave it. How many referrals are you getting, and what is your conversion? And how does the conversion compare to your other lead sources?
Yeah, so that I love this question. So essentially right now, so in the last 45 days, I've received over 40 what I call CCRs, what we're talking about, current client referrals, a referral from someone that is in process with me. Now, here's the craziest statistic. Those are converting for me right now at 68%, you guys, 68% conversion, compared to my overall conversion is at 40%. So it's literally converting at what is that? Almost double what all my other sources are converting as. So highest level of conversion, easiest ask, easiest acquisition.
So guys, just program yourself and remember, every single client during process, have a strategic way and make sure there's a smart sequence around it. So Jeremy, one of the big obstacles is just jumbo loans. They've either been suspended, they're hard to do, they're pricing overlays. How are you flipping them into piggybacks and any other scripting you have around that, call it that industry challenge right now?
Well, until today, I was flipping them into first, second combos. And you have to have an evolving opinion, okay, of how to do things when the market is changing all around you and you keep running into quicksand no matter which way you go. Okay, so here's how I was doing it over the last 3 weeks, is that I was explaining to people that jumbo is basically under attack in our industry, period, right? As that they've reduced their loan to values, they've been cut off at most companies. We suspended temporarily jumbo lending for a few weeks. We brought 2 investors back, but it's very, very limited in-house right now. And we explained to them that there are solutions though, and the solutions could be better through a first, second combo, a first conventional loan, and then a second loan. Well, as of today, it looks like all the seconds are getting cut off, at least where I'm at, looking over there, seeing TCF just said they're not accepting any new loan applications. I believe Symmetry is going to follow later today. So if you guys have any in your pipeline, get on it. I think Quorum is still going to be available, but I was referring a lot of my second combos to a regional company called Exchange Bank. They announced yesterday that they are no longer doing them. So I don't know if my scripting is going to be very helpful to you guys right now, but I will tell you this. Communicating truth in real time is the most powerful thing you can do. The most powerful thing that you can do. Giving people the skinny on what's going on in real time and helping them make decisions and being able to pivot with them. That's what Essential Partner is. You're partnering with that homeowner and you're overcoming obstacles is how you're going to gain the most trust. Okay, so I was doing first, second combos, with TCF Symmetry Exchange Bank. As of this morning, we got a cool email at 11:49 p.m. last night from TCF that said only loans will be honored that were submitted on the 4th. They gave us 11 minutes, right on. It tells you what is going on in our industry though. So that gives us an opportunity to talk about what's going on in our industry. So right now I'm back to doing jumbo again. And even though it costs more, I'm doing jumbo, baby. Who's got a jumbo loan? I can do them. It's just got to pay 2 points for a good rate. That's all.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. So thank you, brother, on that. So let's close out with 2 questions. One, I want to just hear high level on how do you get a meeting with a realtor? And then you're famous, like one of the all-time most watched interviews is when, you know, Jeremy's 5 questions for every realtor. So why don't you close out with some scripting to get a meeting? And then we'll close out with, you know, your 5 questions for every meeting.
Sure. Scripting to get a meeting right now is easier than ever, okay? Because no one is meeting. All right. So the easiest way to get meetings in a time where no one is meeting is to ask for one. And I'm not kidding. I'm not being facetious. I'm being literal. So here is a new script that I've tried out a few times over the last week that is working. So this is hot off the press. And here's what it sounds like. Hey, Dave, it's Jeremy Focier from Cross Country Mortgage. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. How are you doing in COVID?
I'm hanging in there, man. I'm doing well.
What is the best meal that you have had during quarantine?
Wow. So many good meals, but made a great steak last night.
Well, here's what I'd like to do. I would love to send you a meal and do a virtual meeting with you, lunch on me. What do you think?
Interesting.
So I've been doing that. And guess what, you guys? It's working because no one's having fun right now. No one's doing anything fun. Everybody's just worried about what's going to happen, and we can't meet each other. I'm telling you, I dropped off 4 bottles of wine to 4 different people yesterday, followed up with a video and a phone call, got 2 appointments. Okay. Hey, I don't know if you drink wine. If you don't, feel free to give it away to someone that does, but I'd love to just have a quick cocktail or happy hour with you and talk about what's going on in the market. 2 out of 4, that's 50% conversion. Okay. Asking to eat meals with you over Zoom, really, really easy. Asking questions like, hey, Dave, so right now in your pipeline, do you have a lot of listings, or how are you working around showings in the shelter in place? Be current in your scripting when asking for an appointment right now, because things have changed and they probably won't go back to the old norm ever. And certainly nothing that looks like the old norm anytime soon. So I'm leading with fun more than anything, just because fun seems to get people's attention when everyone else is focused on what's going wrong.
Love it, brother. So if you have questions for Jeremy, put them down below, because we are going to roll into questions in just a minute. But Jeremy, what are your 5 questions? I mean, we've got a link to that interview. I'll put the full 15, 20-minute interview down below. Plus, I have a LinkedIn article on it. But what are the 5 questions you're asking every agent right now?
Cool. So number 1 is, where are you having success right now in the marketplace? Okay, where are you having your success right now in the marketplace? Number 2, what is your biggest challenge or obstacle right now in the current market? What is your biggest challenge or obstacle right now in the current market? Okay, number 3, what are some of your non-negotiables as far as being in a relationship with someone? Now, when you ask this, you usually will get a question back, which is good, okay? Because they're like, well, I don't know what do you mean? And you follow that up with, well, what's just most important to you? Whether it's business or personal, about working with someone or just being in a relationship, because I usually find them to be the same thing, okay? Number 4 is that if you could change anything, okay, about the home loan process, what would it be and why? Okay, if you could change anything about the home loan process, what would it be and why? And 5 is, I don't expect you to just give me referrals. That's not why we're here, but I would love to show you how our process works. And all I'd like is the next 2 opportunities that you have to refer, so that we can show you how the process works and we can figure out if we're a good fit. And those are essentially the 5 questions I ask 99.9% of the time in my first meetings with realtors.
All right, guys. So if you have questions for Jeremy, put them down below. He's going to need to leave pretty quick because we've gone over on this. But Renee, before we ask Jeremy one more question, how do you want to unpack any takeaways from what you've heard from Jeremy so far, brother?
You know, what I love about Jeremy is that he keeps it simple, but here's the thing, he's consistent. It's not some of the clients, it's not every once in a while. How many is it? Every client. And it's not negotiable for him. It's going to happen every single time. I want to talk about his celebration point, because it's not even so much what he says, it's the timing in which he says it. He's leveraging Cialdini's moment of power. That moment that somebody thanks you for something, there is a psychological thing that happens where people are, 75% more likely to say yes in that moment. But most people miss those moments and they say, yeah, no problem, we do that for everyone. Jeremy doesn't do that. He's saying, awesome, here's what I need from you. And that reciprocity happens in that moment. So pay attention to the timing. And if you have a radar for when people thank you, those moments of power, celebration moments, you've done something, they're grateful, and you have something ready. I mean, he's ready. Click, signature, send, ask, it's ready to go. But he's measuring current client referrals, which is the #1 measure for testing your client experience. If you're not getting any current client referrals, that means your client experience isn't any good, or you're just not asking. But if you're getting referrals during the process, that's a big indication that you have a great customer experience. So I love that he's asking for that. Jeremy, I think one of your biggest competitive advantages, though, is focus. Getting you on the phone, that if you are not within the 2 or 3 things that you're focused in, it is virtually impossible to get you on the phone in such a great way, because you're up late, you're up early, you're doing the things, you have a goal. You said, I wonder what would happen if I just focus for the next 2 months on getting as much as I can and serving clients, and all of a sudden you're blowing things out of the water while so many people are running and hiding. Realtor Script, obviously it's good, but here's what I see in that. It's innovation. Somebody asked me, what do you think is going to be the end result of all this? And I said, we're going to see some of the most innovative things happening. Technology is going to arise that we didn't think was possible. Efficiencies are going to arise where we didn't think it could be any more efficient. Things are going to be a lot simpler where people used to make us go do all these things, where they're going to be, well, I think, what if we just did this? And all of a sudden the efficiency and innovation happens. So being innovative, not being scared to go out there and try something, I think is critical. The 5 questions is just a gold mine. Go back, listen, learn, and memorize and implement. Excellent job, brother.
Thanks.
Love it. Before we do the last question for Jeremy, and then we open it up for an open collaboration, I'm going to do the mortgage coach commercial. So first of all, anybody that's heard a total cost analysis mentioned, this is a total cost analysis. Loans, options, transparency beyond the norm, ability to put a video on it, ability to show people on how to take a refinance and turn it into paying off your home faster and a life-changing difference. So it's really this simple. Go from white belt, rate quoting loan officer, to black belt mortgage professional. Improve conversion. In today's refi market, it makes it easier, makes it faster. And here's the deal, guys. It's really simple. All you need to do is go to our website. It's $120 a month, no commitment, no setup fee. And here's the other thing. You're going to pay for Mortgage Coach one way or the other. The question is, are you going to pay $120 a month, or are you going to pay one loan a month? Because that's what it's going to cost you if you do not have Mortgage Coach there. So I will put a link down below. And that wraps up SCRIPT-a-PALOOZA 2020. We've had 11 amazing mortgage professionals share some of their best scripts. I'm going to ask a question from the audience of Jeremy, and then we're going to open it up into a collaboration for at least 20 to 30 minutes. I am going to ask any of the leaders that are still on this call. I see Katie, I see Denise. Turn on your video so that we know we have your attention. And I know who's still participating versus who's just listening in. So Jeremy, I see a couple different questions. And Todd, if I'm missing one, why don't you ask it to Jeremy? But I know that you're just great at, like, you ask a realtor for a meeting and they don't say yes. How are you doing your jabs now? Because I know it's different in this market. How are you prospecting for realtors? And, like, what's your secondary script for folks?
Well, I'm not prospecting very well for realtors right now. I saw someone else ask in the chat, like, are you picking a certain day to call? Are you calling once a week? The reality is that, listen, I'm doing whatever I can right now. I don't waste one bloody second in the day ever. And right now it feels like 4 times the amount of work in a day that needs to get done. So I'm off my game a little bit. But what I am doing is using opportunities to be way more purposeful in my calls. So I'm using text videos a lot more than just calling right now, because I can rip out a personal video from 6:30 to 7:30 a.m. I can do 30 of those individual videos to specific people and send them out. So how am I jabbing still? I will tell you this, I'm not having to jab nearly as much. No one is reaching out to them, you guys. That's just the truth. It's right hook after right hook after right hook after right hook. And then when they duck, you hit them with an uppercut. You can get appointments right now. You don't really need to jab. You just need to ask, you need to provide value. So education above everything is it right now. I mean, it really is. I did a webinar for a 27-person agent team in Missouri last Friday. Let me say that again. They're in Missouri, the realtor team. I live in California. Okay, I don't know where Missouri is. That's the truth. So but guess what? A realtor that was in a coaching program forwarded them one of my videos that I had made for them. And they were like, this is so good. Would you mind being our speaker? I was. And then I said, of course, I can do all 50 states. I know that you guys can't show the way you could. I can do online video consultations. And then I got 3 referrals. So think outside the box a little bit, or think inside the box, because the box is way bigger than we realize right now.
I love that. I interviewed Hunter Marquardt last week on the 3 things that matter most, which, by the way, check it out. And right after our interview, he did a Zoom meeting with like 200 realtors. I don't know exactly who it was, but doing Zoom events with agents has just never been hotter. So Renee, as we kick off this mastermind format, it looks like we've got several leaders still on here. Amber, Denise, Katie, Ryan, I'm going to be asking all you guys, because you've been listening to this, what were some of your takeaways? What were some of the notes that you took? But Renee, any questions for Jeremy or anything else you want to unpack as it pertains to SCRIPT-a-PALOOZA?
You know, I think what the big value is going to be, and I have a passion for scripting ever since I was a kid. You saw my post there when I was 18 years old. I was selling cookware, and I walked by this desk and I saw this crumpled up piece of paper, and I saw it, and it was a script, and immediately I saw it as a roadmap to making more money, paying off my college. And I remember stealing it and copying it and putting it back. And that came from, though, a mindset of a sales professional, of looking for any competitive advantage, any just edge that I could squeak ahead of somebody else doing it so I could win. And I think that we lose that mentality, we lose that level of intensity when it's that easy to make that much money on a loan. This industry pays you a lot of money. And I think I want to know what's going through you guys on this call, the leaders here, because you guys have that. I mean, you're clearly still on this. The amount of money it costs you to be on this call, given how much business you have, tells you how valuable this call is, because you're learning for something. So I can't wait to hear the mindset behind why you guys are still here, what you got out of it, et cetera.
So Jeremy, I know you got to jump. What hasn't been said that you want to say to everyone? And I know you have listened to quite a bit of this. Any takeaways that you have, or anything you just want to make sure you share to the audience before we wrap it up?
Yeah, just run like a shark is chasing you. I mean, just run as fast as you can right now. Just run hard. We have such an opportunity. We don't know what the future holds, but I do know that right now we can all crush it. So listen to what everyone shared today. I'm going to stay on for as long as I can. I'm happy to interact and learn, but don't sit on it. Go run with it. Execute. Just pick 3 things and go, I'm going to do these 3 things tomorrow. Don't worry about what happens from it. Just do it. Don't worry about getting it perfect. Just run. That would be my final word.
So here's a framing statement, and then Amber, Kovarik, I'm going to ask you first to jump in and have a question for you. But while it is awesome, we had record-breaking months. Many of you had multiples of your personal best. There's a very good chance rates are going to get into the mid-2s within 2 to 6 months. Like if you listened to last week's update from Dan Rawich, rates are not going up. They could go down, and they could get to just ridiculous levels. So there's preparation that needs to be done right now. Run hard, but there is a bigger tidal wave of business that could be had 2 to 3 months from now if you're being smart, if you're giving families total cost analysis. So Amber, what have been some of your takeaways from today, and anything that you want to make sure you get to cover before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I would say one of the little takeaways I thought was great was giving the listing agent a review after a transaction. I thought that was a really cool thing. But I mean, I've got a couple pages of notes about some things that people say. I agree though with Jeremy that right now it is time to just go crush it. And what I found is that by telling my agents how hard I'm working and that I'm like in full on go mode, I'm inspiring them as well. Like I think they need this positivity because they're surrounded by other realtors that are scared. They've just got their head in the sand. They're not doing anything. And so I am like leading by example for my realtors right now by just working really hard and being around, being on social media and providing content and inspiring them.
Love that. Be the light is my takeaway from that. Ryan, Grant, any takeaways or anything you want to make sure we share as we wrap up today's SCRIPT-a-PALOOZA?
No, I just, I've been taking it all in and trying to get as much new stuff as I can in terms of, there's just so much opportunity right now. I mean, we're all reading a book right now called The Obstacle is the Way. And there's a lot of obstacles right now, but there's also a lot of opportunity in those obstacles. And so there's more eyeballs than ever. I think, Josh and I were talking the other day, he said it better than most, is that, right now is a marketer's dream. It's just attention is on discount right now. And so the opportunity for us to lead into that and the opportunity for us to show our differentiating value is really possible now more than ever. So to Jeremy's point, I'd recommend everybody run fast, run hard, and now's not the time to shrink. Now's the time to get big.
Yeah, thank you, brother. So guys, we have over 100 comments. I am not going to be able to filter through these questions and comments. So if you have a question or a comment, you kind of need to put it at the top of the pack right now, or we're going to wrap it up because it's just an overwhelming amount of things. I don't know what's been answered and what hasn't. So Renee, I'm going to toss it to you in a minute. Before I do, Todd, from a coaching perspective, how can people make today's call actionable? And any feedback or any closing thoughts you have on today's call?
Well, I mean, I thought there was a ton of value from every presenter today. And I think, Jeremy hit the nail on the head. Pick 3 things and do it. And I would just say, take it one step further. Pick 3 things now and put it in your calendar for this afternoon or tomorrow and schedule it with yourself. Make it a commitment. Because if you think, yeah, I'm going to do it tomorrow, you're going to get in, you're going to get going in your email, the phone's going to ring, and you're probably not going to do those 3 things. But if you've got a commitment and you're okay working around that commitment, saying, hey, you know what, I've got a commitment at that time, and that commitment can be with you, that's okay. Get that stuff done. And I think you have to be brave, because what I find is, like, when I listen to Jeremy's 5 questions, I've talked to numerous loan officers who've used that, but they chicken out with the 5th question, asking for the referral, right? They get to that point where they've asked all the questions, they follow Jeremy's model, and then they chicken out at the end. And so I'm going to encourage you to be bold. When you're running fast, like there's a shark chasing you, be bold and push yourself, get a little bit uncomfortable. Because you already heard Jeremy say it. He's celebrating that he got 50% conversion from dropping off 4 bottles of wine. Like, no offense, that is easy. You guys can do it. We just aren't smart enough like Jeremy. We didn't think about it, but think about 4 agents that you can figure out where they live and go drop off those bottle of wines and send that exact same video he did. These are things you can do if you make the choice. So that's all I'm saying. Get in your calendar, choose to do it, be bold, and I think you guys can kick some serious ass based on all the knowledge we've had for the last 2+ hours.
Kick his
Love
ass.
it.
Kick his ass, Seabass. I got one more thing to add. I'm fired up, you guys.
Bring it.
So, I just want to show you guys, share my screen. I showed you in real time, no BS, that I sent that referral email ask, right? Look at what I just got, y'all. I'm gonna prove this to you guys. So this was the email that I sent from my sent inbox at 11:05 a.m. asking for the introduction. Well, what did I just get at 11:23? Hi, Jeremy. I wanted to introduce you to Rick Huggins. He's in the process of scoping properties. I'm sure his timeline is for purchasing, but I wanted to make the introduction. I'll let you take it from here. You guys, 11 minutes, email, referral with the new person on it, introducing. Please, if you're going to do anything, just use that stupid template. Okay, just use that. It works. It's money. In 11 minutes, that could be a $5,000 commission. I want you to have that too.
And it's so important, guys, that you follow the sequence. He waited until a celebration. So, and really going before that, he delivered more than a rate quote. He delivered a total cost analysis at the point of sale. He asked for a referral. So he planted the seed that, and it wasn't just for a referral. It was like, do you know anyone else that would want something like this total cost analysis? So value, planted seed, set the stage. Now he's waiting for the celebration, and boom, he gets a referral. Huge, guys. Renee, any thoughts, any closing thoughts as we wrap up today's call?
I just think this is going to be just a value-packed video for everybody. I hope that people see what it is. Don't get overwhelmed by it. I take it one bite at a time, and make sure you just put the time in. If you're a professional, then practice and train like a professional. Get up, make the time to do this. Spend some weekend times. Focus. Pretend you have to go in the gym, but go into the mental gym and practice these scripts. Call somebody, deliver, and get feedback. This is a practice. It's not a silver bullet, but these are things that if you just practice, it will do. So I just can't stress that enough.
Hey, I see a question that just came in from Jim Ryan. Jeremy, do you change the ask for the 5-star review? So any feedback on how you ask for reviews?
So mine's set up through something called Yext. It automatically goes out at the end of the transaction. And I need to get better about that. I actually don't ever ask for a 5-star review. I just take what I get. So I'm executing very poorly on that.
Right on, guys. So guys, we're going to go into a wrap-up mode. If you got value from today's SCRIPT-a-PALOOZA, give us a like. Whatever social media you're watching this on, whether it is Facebook, whether it is our YouTube channel, give it a like. Share this with your mortgage friends. Keep an eye on the Mortgage Coach website. We will be editing these so that, we'll have a Jeremy Focier SCRIPT-a-PALOOZA highlight. Every speaker will have an individual video. Those will be uploaded into our YouTube channel, so you can listen to the whole 2.5-hour event, or you can listen to 10 or 15 minutes of it at a time. If you are not part of the Mortgage Coach community, guys, become part of our community. And if you are not a member, if you do not have a total cost analysis, 34% of loan officers that close over 100 loans a year do have a Mortgage Coach TCA. Get on the Mortgage Coach team, sign up today, $120 to do that. Make sure that you check out winbynoon.com. And guys, Rene Rodriguez killed it. I don't know about you guys, but some of the takeaways that he had, I'm going to go back and listen to just that Rene Rodriguez wisdom, the man who has helped so many people amplify their leadership through his Amplify training. That was the most valuable personal development spend of time and money I've made. Jeremy, what are your thoughts on Amplify and the value that has for loan officers?
Well, I think that it is top 3 events I've ever participated in, so much that I'm pursuing Rene like a shark as well to try to get more and more relationship with him. It's a must do. If you see an Amplify event around your area, or if you see one 3,000 miles away, make time to go to it. Absolutely incredible, values off the charts.
Thanks, guys.
So Rene, what are the best ways for people to follow you and get on the list for the next live Amplify event?
Well, you go to See by Name, it's just crenespeak.com, and you click the link for Amplify. It's all there. We did just announce some new dates, which I'm really excited about. Crossing our fingers, everything's going to be good in Minneapolis. And so we're excited. We do have a nice waiting list, which is going to be fun. And we're actually even looking at some virtual, not replacements, but virtual things that we can do, because you can't replace the in-person experience. But yeah, I'm excited. June 10 to 11 is going to be June 10 to 12. June 10 to 12 is our first date, and then 24 to 26 June, we've got a nice secluded place, safe. We control the environment where we can have a really nice time. It's limited to 10 people. I think I might even limit it to 9 just to keep it safe. But thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Right on. Well, hey bro, thank you for dedicating all this time, all the takeaways that you gave. Guys, this is a wrap of SCRIPT-a-PALOOZA 2020. If you or someone you know wants to be considered for SCRIPT-a-PALOOZA 2021, reach out to either myself or Todd. I'm Dave at Mortgage Coach. And thank you, everybody. This call's a wrap.
It was fun. Thanks, guys.
Peace out.